No sound. I heard nothing from that.
Welcome to the tutorial. Welcome to the tutorial. If you're here to learn something, you're in the wrong place. This week, this week on the tutorial. Wait, hang on. I have a thing for this. Hang on. Wait, where'd it go? Hang on. I have a thing for this. Hang on.
I have a thing for this. I have. Trust me, guys. It's not usually like this. I promise.
Hang on. I have a thing. I have a thing for this.
This week on the tutorial, we talk about Dragon Age.
Now this is epic.
Ah,
if only I had a brief understanding of voice mod.
If only I had a brief understanding of voice mod.
It's a Darth Vader voice, and then say like, "This is where the fun begins."
Well, hey, let me just.
And the children too. They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals.
Begins.
Okay then.
Wait, actually, hang on. There's a new one on here.
That sounded more like a
I know. Hang on. We'll get to Dragon Age. There's a new one.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. The new one must be a mute. I heard absolutely nothing.
Funny how he says he can't hear me, and yet he's saying exactly what I said.
You hear him?
I don't know what that's supposed to be, because it's like there's a little bit.
But you can hear him.
Well, I heard like bits of him.
Hang on, I'm gonna turn it on so I can hear myself.
Hello? Oh, there we are.
It doesn't.
You really
I
can't
heard
hear
absolutely
anything from
nothing. I
this
heard
at all?
nothing whatsoever. It was just like,
You hear nothing?
okay.
No.
A
Nothing.
new one.
Turn on your fucking ears,
Oh, I can see what
Zeta.
he's talking about though. I wonder if let me see if I can.
You try it. See if I can hear you.
Turn up
Yeah,
your
hold on,
fucking
let me
volume.
put your on.
Is there actually background effects to this?
Whenever you say anything, it's just nothing.
Oh, there is.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, but you just sound normal.
Yeah,
Really?
you just sound
Yeah.
normal.
This changer isn't working. How do I tell it
Yeah.
to plug into?
There's an evil setting.
voice changer. I know about voices.
What does this sound
So
like?
just in case you're wondering, the new voice is called
It's called
Radio Demon.
Yeah.
Oh God, never mind.
It's
I
called
don't want to hear
Radio
it.
Demon.
Like
No,
I love
no,
Hazard
no.
Hotel,
If I
but
wanted
like
to
the
hurt
Edge
anyone
Lords
here-
have overdone a genuinely cool character and turned him into the next fucking Sans, basically. I'm not here for it.
Well, that's okay because I'm here for Dragon Age. That's what I'm
Oh.
here
As
for.
am
I
I.
can hear myself sounding like Alistair.
Mud
But
magic.
apparently you guys don't.
No, you
Did
just sound like an
somebody
ass
say
doing a
egg?
fake ass cut.
Did somebody say
Oh,
eggs?
I'll have to figure out how to plug that in.
You
It's
don't
the
know?
voice of Will Stamper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will
If they ever
Stamper.
reboot He-Man, I demand that Will Stamper play Skeletor.
No.
That would be a pretty good skeleton.
He-Man.
He-Man.
Yeah, basically.
That's how Will Stamper do.
I'm going to tackle
no.
your powers and shove them out my bottle, or something like that. That's what Will Stamper would say.
So what are we?
So would He-Man then be Aaron Hansen, just like, please don't put them up your butt?
No, see, the problem is Ego Raptor would be like, yes, put them up your butt.
Why? Why would you do that?
No,
so
okay.
bad.
Aaron can voice like Prince Adam, but the voice of He-Man has to be Markiplier.
Hello,
It's
everybody.
me,
My name is
He-Man.
Markiplier.
We were talking about Dragon Age. All of this has to get edited out now.
None of it has to get edited out now. We're talking about Dragon Age. And I'd like you to know that the top line of my script here just says Dragon Age breath in all caps.
Dragon Age. It's that game from that
Um,
company that made the game, the Shepherd Dating Simulator.
Shepherd
I'm
Dating
trying to get-
Simulator.
voice mod to work, but it won't read because all I'm doing is laughing and it's going, this isn't words, I can't help you.
Um. Hey Zeta.
what?
Hey Zeta. Do you see do you see the fucking shirt he's wearing?
Yes,
It's
my
fucking
shirt.
it's
This
fucking
is
ironic.
work on it,
It's fucking ironic, isn't it?
'cause it doesn't work.
Exactly.
I'm alive.
This is what it's like when the recording's not rolling.
I have throat
only
cancer.
we just turned the recording on and
Yeah.
we haven't really started the episode yet. So anyway,
No, we clearly have not.
Dragon Age, yo.
Yes, Dragon Age. What are we talking about with Dragon Age?
Age. Can we get back on topic, please?
Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age.
The whole Dragon Age
Um,
series, sir, is what we're covering today.
We're talking about Dragon Age. Not
We're talking
I only
about the
really
Dragon
talk-
Age.
That's racist.
I can't set this thing up because fucking I can't talk enough, and the computer can hear all of you, so it's just constantly not letting me
Dragon
change
Age.
the microphone.
Dragon Age. It is an RPG, which stands for role-playing game. If you don't know what that is,
You play the role of a particular person.
yes, indeed.
Yes,
And
usually a person you name yourself.
yes, that's why you have a lot of quote-unquote heroes. Well, I'll put it this way: go watch Eddie Game Grumps Legend of Zelda series and tell me what they named their Link, and that's basically how RPGs work.
Spoomples.
Was it like Flump for one of them?
or if you just
Slurp.
decide to include Shovel Knight, where it's also
Slurp.
beans
Business.
and
Yes.
and bees.
Business. That was a great playthrough. But
Business.
anyway, we're here to talk about Dragon Age. We can talk about I mean, if we really want to, we can talk about Game Grumps in another episode.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm the second-born son, but for some reason, titles like Dragon Age or Dark Souls, I always seem to enjoy the middle installment, the second, better, and nobody else does. Like we discussed in the Dark Souls episode, everybody was like, "Oh, Dark Souls 2 is the worst one." Meanwhile, I'm like, "That's my favorite." And there's a similar opinion of Dragon Age, where like there's a lot of people who talk about a lot of things wrong with Dragon Age 2. But I'm like, "Oh, that's my favorite." Like that one.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the irony of that situation is I am the third oldest here, the youngest, the kid, the baby. And
You like the third one.
You-
and I like the
Fair
third
enough.
one.
I mean,
Yeah.
Uh,
so here's the
technically
thing.
speaking, the
Dragon
third one I'm
Age
sure is objectively
2.
better, but I still
Like-
can't play it because I can't read microscopic lettering.
The problem that everybody had with the third one was the fact that they're like, oh, you made it too simple and easy and accessible to everybody. It's like Skyrim.
Sounds like
It's
a
way
good
too
time
it's
for
way too easy and simple. I like my hardcore bullshit because I like it when Dark Souls stabs me up the butthole.
I can't imagine them changing the system because I remember I managed to drag myself through the tutorial, and I seem to remember mechanically speaking, it worked basically the same as 2.
It is a lot like simpler than Origins for sure, but
But yeah, so is 2.
I
That
like
was one of the big
liked-
reasons I liked 2.
I liked the locations and the characters and like the story. The story was all right, but the locations and the characters were very cool. I will say, and we'll get to Dragon Age the Third, aka Inquisition, at some point. But I will say it did kind of feel at some point in the story where it's like, all right, we're about halfway through the story, we're doing good, and then it's like, hey, it's the final boss, and you're like, what? They just kind of throw it at you. It's like, hey,
Origins
he's here.
does not have that problem. That's for sure.
And you're just like, wait, where was the buildup? They just kind of go like, oh, you're going on another mission. And it's like, hey, by the way, this mission, you're fighting the final boss.
definitely not a problem.
Yeah, and they tell you that like when you get there, right?
Yeah.
It's like
You
so you're just like
kind
doing
of,
the mission. It's like okay, this feels
and
like
then,
we're probably
and then
like I don't know,
suddenly
like, we gotta be like halfway
cutscene,
through this game,
the
and
final
then it's like,
boss
hey, this
shows
is the
up,
final boss, by the way.
and you're like, what the fuck?
You're just like,
What the fuck is this guy doing here?
okay.
Yeah. And
It's kind of like the very first time I played Skyrim, and you get the Dragon Run shout, and
If
then
you,
it's just like, oh, defeat Alduin, and I was like, what?
if you play any
And that turned out not
RPG
to
the
be
way I
final
do,
boss battle, but there's like one more mission after that.
if you play any RPG the way I do, which is where you go do all the goddamn side quests before you do the main quests.
Yeah, it's easier to do that with Dragon Age because there are plenty, but there's not too goddamn many of them.
Yeah, but then by the time you reach the final boss and they just throw it at you, you're like, oh, okay, I guess this is the final boss fight. And he's just kind of like,
That meme where it's like the final boss and he looks like this cool muscular looking guy, and then it says me after completing all the side quests, and you're like a fucking space marine next to him, like 8 foot tall monstrosity, like die bitch.
yeah, basically that's how it felt when I played it. I was like, wait, that's it? That's the boss fight? Like what?
That's
Like,
actually a trope
fucking-
that was set with Final Fantasy
he
and
just-
Secret Bosses, by the way.
He
That's
just
a callback.
fucking crumpled.
They're tiny.
It took me like 2 minutes to beat him.
You want to play hard mode? You play as a mage. Although I think you did play as a mage. Now that I think about it. I
But
think hard mode is actually play as an archer.
let's
Wasn't
let's
you.
start with Dragon Age Origins.
Well, actually,
I still have my first character, Caecilius, who I named
basically-
long before Doctor Strange came out.
Dragon Age is a BioWare RPG, which we could do a whole episode on BioWare games in general.
Yes, Bioware. Yeah.
But
It's funny because I've played only 2 Dragon Age games and no Mass Effect games, and I don't even know what else to do.
true story. I've played 1 entire hour of Mass Effect the first, and that's it.
It was just like I remember being at PVCC.
Well, see, here's the thing. I had a
for my
person.
undergrad.
I had a person next to me the whole time that was like, you know the kind of person where like you're playing the game and they're just like, don't go that way. I had that. I had
That's
that
me
the whole time.
sometimes.
I was like, do you want me to play something else? Do you want me to turn this off? Like,
I've kind of gotten to a point though where it's like it's a lot funnier for me to just keep my mouth shut, and when you fuck up, it's hilarious. But yeah, no, I remember being in my undergrad and people were like all the rage about Mass Effect 2 coming out, and I was like, "What the fuck is Mass Effect?" They're like, "It's the new Halo," and then they were talking about like how you can sleep with everybody on your crew, and I was like, "Just not how I play RPGs." Like Master Chief was like he was like, "I could give a fuck about any of you."
Master Chief was like,
if they played,
Can I say something regarding that particular gameplay idea? I wanted to make a point that like when they did that in Dragon Age and Mass Effect, it felt like something they just put in the game that you can do. When they did that with Witcher, it felt like the proper way to play Geralt, because it was just like they let Geralt have enough character.
what CD Projekt Red did.
well, here's the difference. Do you want to tell me, or do you want me to tell you why it worked so much better in Witcher than it worked in any of the BioWare games?
Can I answer that? Can I answer that?
Hold on.
Can I answer that?
Geralt has character, and your blank son of a bitch character has none.
What do you think, Zeta?
Because sort of like what Leonis just said, because Geralt has like an in-game reason for it. First of all, that's stated to
That's
you.
part of it.
Second of all, he discusses it. He has introspection and stuff, and it conveys story to you. There is some of that in Dragon Age. I don't know because I haven't played in Mass Effect. But what I do remember is in Dragon Age as well, and I've been told the same as in Mass Effect. If you do not romance any characters, then the characters who are optional romances are all like, "Why don't you like me? I thought we were friends." And it's like it feels like you're punished for just wanting to be a single dude.
See, and here's the difference, right? the romance options in Witcher in The Witcher 3, it's like this is a story option. You can go here and unlock a part of the story and like just do a whole story over here. Whereas in Dragon Age and Mass Effect, they're like, here's a meter, give them
Like, who do
presents.
you want to fuck?
Give them presents, fill up the meter, you get to have the
Yeah,
sex.
that's accurate. It feels much more organic in Witcher.
Exactly, because they give you a yellow highlighted option that's like, if you pick this option, it's flirting, right? We're just making sure you know that. But you can say no, you don't have to.
And you can do that. You can do that in Dragon Age as well. Like there's flirt and romance buttons, but which me being the sarcastic asshole in almost every playthrough, some of the flirt responses were just sarcastic stupidity, and it's like that's what I would say.
And that's
maybe
the thing.
that's just
like,
because
in
I'm
Witcher
a sarcastic
3, in Witcher 3, which
but...
we'll do an episode on the Witcher series at some point. But
I gotta play that now too.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I bought my PlayStation 4, or rather when my PlayStation 4 was given to me, and we went out and we bought a bunch of games, and one of the first games we got, because it was all the rage and everybody was like, oh, you have to get it, was Witcher 3. I remember Linda got Crash and Spyro, and I got Witcher and Monster Hunter World, and I've played like almost 1,000 hours of Monster Hunter World, and I still haven't even taken a shrink.
0 hours
of
Witcher. I think if you want to actually play the game before we talk about it, I might have to tell you like 3 months in advance, like, hey, in 3 months we're gonna do an episode on The Witcher, because that's what I've been told.
Because like I was like, oh, Skyrim's this big, great open world, and everyone's like, Witcher 3 is bigger and better. And
Witcher 3 is bigger and better.
I want to play 1 and 2 as well. That's really the only reason I haven't played it yet, is because like I want to play 1 and 2 as well.
I'll tell you this: I've played through probably most of the game for Witcher 3, and I don't think I needed to play 1 and 2. I do have 1 and 2 now on the PC, and I will play them at some point. But Witcher 3 on its own is fantastic. I would really rather
play 1 and 2, so I feel like I've like on Geralt's journey instead of just like picking up when he's already like
you understand a little bit better when they the moments where during the romance options they kind of tell you the backstory of why these two know each other and how they flirt
but then I'm
before.
like, but then I want to be like, why did that happen? When did that happen? How did that happen?
What the fuck is with the unicorn? Why is there a unicorn?
Yeah. Also, he got killed by somebody with a pitchfork who was like 12 years old. The unicorn decided no.
What?
These are informations that I do not have.
What?
I want to play the other games and read read all the books.
The only thing I know about The Witcher 2 is that like you can find an Easter egg with a dead Assassin's Creed type person, and Geralt's just they never learn.
I remember that was a whole big deal.
They're like, they're smacking around Assassin's Creed.
That shit talking in games has been around for a long time. Like the earliest one I can think of is
Marine.
You can actually think of one earlier.
We meant to get Dr. Jones.
There's an Easter egg I think in Doom 2 where it mocks Commander Keen, which was in house, so that was funny.
But that was also in house, sort of.
Yeah, Duke Nukem mocking the Space Marine was also funny.
But
Meanwhile, you couldn't get away with that now because Doomslayer is like the ultimate Chad, and Duke Nukem has been reduced to a text-to-speech mod talking about
I used to be cool, and now nobody likes me. And it's
cringy,
all
ironic lines on YouTube where it's like, yes, I know what sex is, but I won't tell you. And like, that's Duke Nukem on YouTube. And that's it. That's all he got. We now have in the first age.
I'm here to chew ass and kick bubblegum.
And I'm all out. Oh no, I think I've gone senile. Oops, hold on, let me read that.
And I'm here. Let me make it worse for you. Dear gum bubble ass, I am.
I think I just shot myself. Time to go.
Dragon Age.
Oh dear, he's gone in his pants. Oh, he's escaping out the window.
I just want to talk about like.
I know people tend to be like, oh yes, dwarves. They are short and stocky and Scottish and
we can get there. The romantic options.
But
Johnson, Enchantment.
I'm not talking about him though.
Enchantment.
I'm talking about the beardless dwarf with Bianca, most fuckable dwarf in the history of dwarves.
Yeah.
You mean good old Varric?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Varric.
He's probably the saving grace of the second game, I guess.
I don't think so. I think
It's
specifically,
hours of
I think
the second game.
specifically the bromance
no.
between Hawk and Varric is the saving grace
The
of that
bromance
Oh.
between Hawk and Varric is
I will
like
admit,
if you play the sarcastic
Oh, yeah.
asshole card instead of like the good Samaritan or the cynic, if you just play the sarcastic asshole to like every option of dialogue, then it's just like the entire story just becomes about the bromance.
It's just two bros
no matter what
doing
class
their
you are.
thing. Yeah.
It's just a couple of bros going down like way down in the deep down underground
It's
and
two
like
bros.
fighting fucking demons and shit, finding
It's
some
two
old Buddha
bros
idols
on
that
a two bros
just got
on an
spooky
adventure.
powers.
Yeah.
Well, to go back to Origins for a second, one thing that I remember very clearly about playing through Origins
Is the witch's boobs!
well, I do recall that very
Oregon!
clearly.
Hello,
recall
darling.
fucking her
I'm
That's all
Morgan.
everybody else remembers about
Um,
that still.
I also remember fucking her to save the world and not die in the process.
Do you know who the best romance option in Origins is, though? Objectively best romance option in Origins?
Fucking
You're gonna
Sten.
tell me. Yeah.
Sten.
You're gonna tell me Sten.
Sten.
oh my fucking god!
What a
dude.
hunk of man.
Can I ask a question? When did
Fuck the
Quinari go
witch!
from
Save the world!
with big dudes with cornrows to like fucking horned devil
to
creatures?
fucking generic
two
demon
Urgles?
lord?
Yeah.
They went from, because I think what it was is they didn't have like a clear idea of what they wanted by the time the game came out, so they just gave Sten, because he's the only Cune in the entire game. They just gave him just this big, tall, like muscular dude, and they were like,
Yeah, and then
he's Quinari, tribal
yeah,
thing."
and then
by the time the second game came out,
number
they had the
two-
technology and the direction to be like, they are this different species.
they're
which is,
horny bastards. And what they told you was, oh, Sten, that guy from the first game, he was dishonored and he had his horns removed. That's why he didn't have any.
Yeah.
Silly.
That's why I was in a fucking cage,
Why
don't
he
you
looks like a
know?
black guy instead of a blue-skinned reptilian.
Didn't look like a black guy either, though. He just looked like a tall white dude with dreadlocks.
He was just a big dude.
Who always
Look at the
whined about the
humor,
fact that
though.
we weren't going to die on the front lines. And it's like, my favorite dialogue option in the entire first game was the first time he bitches about that. And you're like, no, if we go so far this way, we'll come all the way around the planet to the other side and take him from behind. They'll never see it coming. And he's, just like, that is either the worst thing I've ever heard or the most genius thing I've ever heard.
He's like, you
I
are
will
a
follow you."
fucking genius. I'm gonna follow you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like,
Well, the thing I wanted to talk about, instead of getting into story and everything, was I remember, because a lot of games I play, and I guess this is kind of carrying over from playing Final Fantasy a lot for me, is usually the final boss is like a challenge, but not the biggest challenge.
Mhm.
And if you really want to challenge yourself, you go find yourself the challenge, and it's a
The
arduous
secret
journey to
boss.
get there. Yeah, it's usually called the secret boss, and like
or
I
the
usually talk about
optional super boss.
Are we talking about the dragon?
The High Dragon is not as difficult as the Archdemon.
Now, see, so
That
here's
is
the thing, right?
objectively true.
So first of all, there's only 2 secret bosses to fight that I recall in Dragon Age the Origins. There's the High Dragon, which you don't have to fight. I'm pretty sure you can choose the other.
What was their name of their she-Jesus?
Andraste.
Yeah, Andraste.
Flemeth. That's the
No,
other one.
no.
Splenneth is
Andraste.
not. Splenneth is the
fucking
opposite of she-Jesus.
The fucking prophetess or whatever the fuck from the Church
Yeah.
of We're Not Catholic, We Swear.
Andraste!
Or not
Church of
Catholic.
Andraste. One that created an
the
entire
other
army of
secret-
simps.
Yeah.
The other secret boss is Flemeth.
Andraste's titties.
And I just recall, like, I got to the point where I'd done all the side quests and everything, and I'm sitting there right before the final boss, and I'm like, I'm gonna go search the world and see if I can find any secret bosses or anything. I ended up, I did not know you could fight Flemeth. So I scoured the world for secret bosses. I found the High Dragon. And I was like, that was I bitch slapped that in 5 seconds.
That was
I can't do this.
lame.
That was super lame. So
'Twas the
then I'm
worst
looking up like,
secret
is
boss.
there any secret bosses? And it's like, oh, you know, you can always just go piss off Flemeth, and she's a secret boss. And I was like, really? And then she turns
Just like,
into
hmm.
a dragon, except she's like 8 times the size of the High Dragon. I'm like,
Yeah.
No, she's roughly the same size, but she's got like 8 times the health bar.
Yeah.
and I was
You
like,
just walk up, you're like,
And
what
then
the
so-
fuck is up, Flemeth? I fucked
so
your
I
daughter.
swatted her in 5 minutes instead of
Yeah.
5 seconds, and I was like, that's it.
The very first time I fought the High Dragon, I had just gotten the 2 AoE spells with like it's just like fire everywhere and then like lightning everywhere. So it was a tough battle, and I almost ran out of health potions. But because I had those 2 AoE effects that don't hurt my allies, because I did mage playthroughs, that made it possible. And then I did the same thing with Flemeth, and I was significantly more leveled up by then, but it was still difficult. But I had kind of taken verbal cues from the characters because I was very much like, tell me more about yourself. I don't care if you're introverted. Let's go. Let's talk. Let's do this. I'm not going anywhere until I get the information I want out of you. So I
Please
was
give me
aggressively
one
progressing
full
characters.
tray of backstory.
Please. I thought you were going to say bath salts, but that works too.
Yeah.
The game was fucking dystopian.
That game was fucking great. And like, no, you don't understand how fucking beautiful that game was. You get the recipe wrong in the cooker. You get it's not just like, oh no, you fucked up the recipe. It was like you fucked it up so
it's
bad.
the
It's a
Glock
literal
monster.
monster that comes out. It's like, rah, fuck you, motherfucker. It's such a
Yeah, I went back because we found like it was this thing called like the Black Grimoire or whatever, and it was like a facsimile of Flemeth's book. She was like, "Oh yeah, Mom has a book like this, but she never lets me read it because she says there's all kinds of crazy dark secrets in there." And then we find Flemeth's grimoire, and she's like, "She's gonna take my heart out and kill me for her youthfulness. Let's kill her first." And I was like, "Whatever you want."
this bitch.
Whatever
This
you want,
fucking
big kitty
man.
goth girl.
No, it was just like I simp every character that is in my party. Let's go.
I like to imagine, by the way,
No,
because
hang
you're-
on. I'd like to amend my previous statement because I forgot DLC. The best romance option is Shale.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of shipped Stan and Shale a little bit, but
if you're
yeah.
the sarcastic, flirty character, you do her story, and she finds out that she was a dwarven woman, and she's all like surprised, and it's like this huge revelation. She has like, I have to like, you know, I look at flesh features
sweet,
in new
I
light
got
now
rock
because I was
titties.
one once. No, and your character, one of the responses you can get is one of the responses you can give is like, well, now that I know you're a woman, you suddenly look more curvy. And Shale's just like, please stop. And like it's obviously it's not supposed to like actually be coming on to Shale. It's clearly like intended to just be like bro talk, fuck around, and like, oh, you suddenly look a lot more womanly. But it's just constantly antagonizing Shale with just dumbass sarcastic shenanigans.
I do like to think that the nameless, faceless character that you create in Dragon Age Origins, like, I like to imagine he's running around it just being like, I'm the Great Warden. Hello. Oh, you want me to go fuck up a dragon? Okay, I'm gonna kill a fucking dragon.
My favorite part about him being a Grey Warden is the fact that one of the options that you can do to take over the Dwarven place is like fight in the arena on behalf of somebody. And you basically just fucking T-pose on their entire gladiatorial arena.
Fuck you, I'm the Great Warden, bitches.
I'm the Grey Warden! Respect the name!
Respect the fucking name, I'm out of here. Fuck y'all.
I'm not being auditory enough because there's video and we're seeing it, and I'm just like shaking my head disappointingly at people.
Yeah.
Um,
It's okay. Your silence speaks volumes.
That's okay. If I can get back to my script,
Like your silence is definite.
So now that we've talked about romance,
Now that we talked about Dragon Age, we need to talk about
things
Brett, apparently.
about Brett.
yeah. So
The
well,
script says Dragon Age, Brett.
Dragon Age, bruh. Yeah. So basically, the BioWare RPGs that you might be familiar with: Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic. That's their like big three.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
they did do
Oh, I
those.
forgot about that one.
I also
Yeah.
haven't played those games. Revan can suck my dick.
But we're gonna talk about Dragon Age. The other two, we'll save those for another time. I'll put them
All I
on
remember
the,
is Adam
the
Sessler
list.
talking about how it was the first like gay relationship you could get into in a game, and I was like, that's cool.
So Dragon Age Origins,
I don't care.
which was Dragon
It
Age
was
Origins
mostly because I was poor. A game I would never have.
I like
Dragon Age Origins.
I like Peanut Butter Gamers. He made fun of the fact that in Knights of the Old Republic, it's like
That's annoying,
you're
not
you're
really
going to a
wrong.
party and you go to the party and it's like the lamest party you've ever been to. It's just like 3 dudes in a completely gray room, just kind of going like. He's like, "Yo, this party's lit."
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Even the party in the beginning of the first Magicka game was more lit than that.
I realized also they couldn't see what I was doing there, so they're just gonna be like what? I just shimmied a little bit.
But it
like,
doesn't
barely.
really matter because that's exactly the point. Nothing was fucking happening.
Yeah, that was kind of the point. It was just nothing.
Man.
Yeah, but anyway, so Dragon Age was released in November of 2009. Now, fun fact, it was released as Dragon Age. It was not released as Dragon Age Origins. The Origins bit was added a year later in 2010 when they released the DLC entitled Origins. That's when it became Dragon Age Origins.
Is that out of curiosity? Is that when they added the Shale quest? I don't recall really anything about.
No, I don't think so.
I don't really recall much in the way of DLC for the first game. Like
I do remember
there
seeing
was
it. I do remember seeing
DLC.
it.
I know Shale is DLC. I know the option to
So
fuck
there was-
Morrigan to save the world without dying is DLC.
So there was Dragon Age,
That's
then
not
Origins,
DLC, but you need the DLC to actually get like.
and then there was Dragon Age Origins Awakening, and then Dragon Age Origins fucking Shale Quest or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, Awakening was a DLC where it's like all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, that's the one where you get to fuck Morgan and save the world.
I remember Kevin playing Dragon Age, and I remember seeing the splash art that just said Dragon Age. And then I remember later, as we were hanging out, and he pops it up and it says Dragon Age Origins. I'm like, oh, this is like a different game. And he was like trying to say, no, it's the same game. I'm like, but I remember it just saying Dragon Age. He's like, it doesn't matter, it's the same game. He did a really shitty job of explaining it, in so much that he didn't. And I remember Fable 2, I think, was out around the same time. So
I've never played Fable.
I got those two confused a lot around then. Because I hadn't seen much about it. Now I own all of those games, except I don't have Fable 3, and I can't read Microsoft text. I still haven't played Inquisition.
I'll have to see if I can.
I actually haven't tried it
that
on my
for you.
Titanic television.
I feel like I could probably fix that for you, but I'll have to fuck around and find out. So Dragon Age is essentially, we've said it a few times, it's an RPG. It's your traditional RPG with the swords and the magic and things. So, you know,
get on board.
Yeah,
we're not really talking much about it. Like,
it
we
was
could at least talk about
well,
the world.
if you'd let me, yeah, I'm getting there. If you'd let me actually go on with my script, sir, instead of interrupting me all the fucking time, trying to get like 3 pages ahead. Just be like, hey man, can we skip to the end of it? Is that how you read fucking books? You're just like, yeah, fuck this book. I'm gonna go to the last page, and then it says, and then they fucked, and you're like, all right, that's the fucking story. And people are like, what fucking book were you reading? You were holding a book that says the Bible. What part of that does it say they fucked?
A bunch, actually.
Most of the Song of Solomon.
Yeah. Anyway, now that I've offended a huge group of people, so Dragon Age, it was inspired by some things.
Get pissy about that and doesn't understand the Song of Solomon kidding themselves.
There's a whole song about the Song of Solomon, but we can get to that later. When we inevitably do our tutorial on the Bible,
Oh my god.
Welcome to the tutorial on the Bible. We talk about how to conquer the world.
welcome to the tutorial on the Bible. This one's gonna be like a 4-episode. I don't think we'll be doing that.
No, because then we also have to do a tutorial on the Quran and then like, whatever
I don't want to be a channel that does tutorials on religious texts. That sounds like a bad idea.
I don't dress well enough to do that, nor do I have glasses or a beard.
I don't have a white shirt with a black tie and a bicycle, okay?
I don't have to be Mormon to talk about the Quran.
What? I was talking about the Bible.
No, you were clearly talking about the Book of Mormon.
The Book of Mormon, yeah.
Stage play.
I'm sorry. The audience. The audience can't see, but Dave has checked the fuck out. He's on his phone, just ignoring us.
Yeah, I'm not in this conversation.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Dragon Age was inspired
I can't talk about Dragon Age,
by some
not
things.
the Bible.
Well, there may be dragons in the Bible. Dragon Age was inspired by some things that you may know, such as Game of Thrones, which I remind you was a book series way the fuck before it was ever a TV series.
Yeah, that was back when George R.R. Martin was half the man that he is now and had colored hair.
In fact, yes, A Dance of Ice and Fire, which is a big piece of what inspired Dragon Age. The other big inspiration of Dragon Age was Baldur's Gate, if you know what that is.
Which is Dungeons and Dragons, by the way.
It's the Dungeons and Dragons thing, and this is why Dragon Age Origins, out of all of the three,
I want to do a D&D session where it's like, welcome to D&D, Dungeons and Doomslayers.
Maybe one day. Actually, there was the Critical Role did do a whole Doom one shot, so it's possible.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
I have to go watch it.
Interesting.
Oh, and there's a book. They have a book on their website for that shit.
I'm sure they have like a bunch of shit, but like I watched 50 episodes so I could just stare at Matt Mercer. And
You just didn't. No, you're like, I'm not gonna pay attention to the story. I'm just gonna stare at Matt Mercer's beautiful hair.
It's just all those fucking TikToks where it's zooming in and it's just like, you're so fucking precious.
I love when the cast talks about like
this is how to be a better dungeon master and how to have fabulous hair.
I love how those moments where the cast like off like on their like talk show, their like after show talk show thing where they're like, yeah, Matt's wild, like he can 1 minute he can be like, this is the evil master wizard person, and the next minute he's just Jester's mom, and it's like this is the same person.
It's called being a professional.
Yeah. But they're all professional voice actors though, and it still wigs them out a little bit. It's great.
Yeah, because Matt don't crack.
That's not true if you've seen Critical Role.
I mean, like I said, I've watched the first like 50 episodes, so yes, he do crack, but not nearly as often as literally everybody else, most and especially Liam O'Brien.
I was gonna say Laura Bailey. Laura Bailey cracks a lot.
Grand Poobah.
You guys,
His Eminence, your Majesty.
you guys,
hey, you over there.
You guys, you've only seen Campaign 1, huh?
I've seen.
No, I have seen over 100 episodes of Campaign 2.
I'm on like the last episode of Campaign 2, so woo. Anyway.
Weird flex, but okay.
I'm just saying I've seen a lot. Yeah, Baldur's Gate, which is so Song of Ice and Fire and Baldur's Gate. If you can, Baldur's Gate is sort of a more serious thing, and so it would make a lot of sense if you know those two things. Why Dragon Age Origins something that I find so fucking
desperately
edgy
ironic.
And fucking serious all the time? Dragon Age Origins.
Can I say something that I find desperately ironic about that?
What?
I've seen some of the early access gameplay for Baldur's Gate 3, and it literally just looks like Dragon Age.
Funny, isn't it?
It's an inspirational circle trick going on here.
In fact, I think BioWare actually is working on that game.
Dragon Ball inspired Dragon Ball Abridged inspired Dragon Ball Super.
I don't think it works that way, but okay.
That's exactly how it works.
Why do you think he's so fucking retarded?
Why did you think that Goku went from I'm not really good at other things, but that doesn't make me stupid. I'm
like actually mentally handicapped.
Actually mentally handicapped, yeah, throughout pretty much the entirety of Super.
Well, I haven't seen Super, so I wouldn't know.
Wow. All right then. Moving on.
Who is developing Baldur's
So what are we trying to cover here by saying that it has inspiration?
So I just wanted I wanted to put that out there because it makes sense if you've played the game. Also, it'll make sense when I describe Dragon Age Origins. So Dragon Age, the first Dragon Age Origins, takes place in well, all of them really take place in the world of Thedas, which is actually kind of a cop-out because Thedas is the name of the only continent that we know about because they never go beyond Thedas anywhere in any of the games. It's just all on fucking Thedas, but we have no idea what.
Hold on now.
We don't know what the actual planet.
Basically the same thing.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
They've only mentioned Akavir.
First of all, yeah, okay. So first of all, but that's the thing. That's the thing. Here's my argument, Zeta. We don't know any other continent besides Thedas. We just know Thedas. In Elder Scrolls, you know Akavir exists, and you also are aware of the fucking the other island.
Mora.
At Mora.
Well, that too.
You're putting your hand over your
That
head,
too.
so I assume you mean north. The only thing north of Tamriel
At
is
Mora. That's where
I actually wasn't talking about
That's where the
Edmora.
Nords come from.
I was talking about the fucking place where all the Red Guards came from.
Amberfell is part of Tamriel.
It's an island.
You
Are you talking about Stros Mackay?
Maybe. It's the one that it's
It's
the one that in their lore they fucking disappeared the island by blade singing or whatever. But
Yeah, that's Stros
hang
Mackay.
on.
okay.
Was that Stros Mackay?
I don't know the Elder Scrolls lore well enough to know.
Because the
But
Sigils did the same thing to their island, but I don't remember what
that's the Isle of Artaeum, which again, you know all these places though. And I'll grant that all
Those
the
are
big locations in Elder Scrolls are on one continent, but
The only other
in
continent
Dragon Age, you
know about
only
is
know about
Akavir.
Thedas. And my argument also to you is that at least in Elder Scrolls, you know that the world you're on is called Nirn. You don't know that in Dragon Age. You just know Thedas. You don't know what the fuck the planet is called. No, because I looked it up. There's no planet name. There's no world name. You just know Thedas. That's it.
Dragon Age name of the world.
Watch, it's going to come up. It's going to say Thedas.
This is a continent in the southern hemisphere and only known continent of the Dragon Age universe, upon which all of the Dragon Age games are set.
See?
It is presumed that there are other continents because the Quinari do not originally come from Thedas, but an unknown land across the northern ocean, probably called Cune.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the Tevinter.
Fucking Thedas. So anyway,
No, okay, so hang on. That's not quite true. You don't know the name of the planet. The planet may not just have a name. We know that there are other continents. We just don't know what the fuck they're called. Because the Tevinter and the Qunari come from other continents.
but the Tevinter are on Thedas though. That's a group of mages.
Or the Qunari.
No, the Qunari are the opposite of mages.
But they're still on Thedas.
He's trying to
Anyway.
say they're on Thedas just like the
Like the
Tevinter.
Tevinter are here, yeah, so are the Qunari, is my point.
But anyway, so Thedas and I mean presumably
Urgle, that's what I compare them to.
presumably the world, but we don't really know because our view is really limited to fucking Thedas, like I've said 100 times.
Well,
But Thedas has a bit of an issue, and that issue is called the Blight. And it's basically an event that happens every so many hundreds of thousands of years or whatever the fuck, where essentially
What I gather of the Blight is that it is a really, really advanced zombie plague.
Sort of, yeah. All these like cursed, diseased
Like a vampire
monsters
zombie.
known as the Darkspawn crawl out of the ground and try to fucking take over the world for a while.
The difference is they're not zombies in the traditional complete.
No,
mindless,
they're-
Yeah,
They
that's why I
are
said
led-
They're, like vampire
They're
zombies.
led by an archdemon, which is basically a big fucking dragon. That
Servant
gives
god.
them.
Spoilers! It's an elder god.
Thanks, Zeta, for that. Yeah. So anyway, basically the Blight is where they try to take over the world until you fucking kill the archdemon, and then the Blight will be over. But
Do you mind if I cover like their idea of like where the Blight came
well,
from?
I actually have that in my script.
Okay.
Now I will say. This is according to, in the lore, this is a theory according to the Church of Andraste. We don't actually know for sure, but they think it happened because the Golden City, aka their version of heaven, was defiled, and that caused the Blight.
Because it's adventure in magic.
Way more complex than that. So
Yeah, but that's a dumbed down version.
Yeah, that's basically it. Though.
Andraste, the first
the part
e-girl.
that you forget is that Tervinter, the people who run them are
Tervinter.
blood
It's
mages.
Tervinter. Tervinter.
Like
Them Tervinter
They're
bastards.
Taventer and their propane.
The Taventer nobility is all blood mages, and blood mages are let's just say dark mages for people who don't understand. Essentially, it's bad magic. It's dark magic. It's not something you
Well-
generally want around. Hold on, I'll get there.
According to
It's not that
Andraste.
it's inherently evil, but there's
It's
a
just
lot
that
of
Andraste
bad
doesn't
that
like it.
happen.
It's pretty
The
fucking
point
gross.
is
I'll give you
That the
that.
belief is that these guys who, and again, this is according to the Church of Andraste, so just so we're clear, they're fine to do blood magic up until the point they decided we're basically gods. Let's go kill the gods. And then it
Mhm.
became a problem. And then so the Blight is actually those original mages cursed by the gods for the audacity of entering the Golden City and thrown
Which
back
is-
down to Earth.
That's their theory. That's not even their theory. That's their official, like,
Yeah.
legislated.
So as you say, it's more complex than just.
That's what they
dogma.
writ. That's what they wrote in their religious book.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Meanwhile, it's just the
to
dead being
point
raised by
out,
elder gods
because
who are
there's
pissed
a
off for
reason that
some
the
reason.
Church of Andraste is against mages, which we'll cover later.
Yeah, what is it she says? Magic exists to serve man and not to rule over him.
That's said
I
by a
stole that
lot
from
of
Ennius, by
people.
the way.
Yeah, that's a big theme in Dragon Age 2, but we'll get to that.
Andraste, the first e-girl, where the E is for evangelical.
Evangelical. Yeah.
hate Andraste.
Okay.
An army of ships called Templars.
Yeah.
Can you tell I only do mage?
I-
Can you tell I only do mage playthroughs yet?
I'd love to talk about the Templars for a while. We'll do that later on.
You talk specifically about Alistair.
I feel like
Alistair's not a Templar. Alistair's a Warden. There's a big difference.
So is there a difference?
Well, he started
between
out as a Templar.
Hold on. Is there a difference between a Templar and the Inquisitors that are part of the Inquisition?
Yes,
those-
there's a
Massive
huge
difference.
difference.
'Cause
There's
I always
a
thought the foot
huge
soldiers
difference.
of the Inquisition were the Templars.
No!
No, the first Inquisitor is a Templar. The first Inquisitor is a Templar
Well, I
because
thought
at
that-
the end of the second
I
game,
should-
he's
I should make
But,
this
like-
a bit more specific. I thought that the Inquisition was a sub-order with
No, no.
no, they're a different order. So it's like the Templars like basically keep reins on mages. The Inquisition exists to keep reins
Yeah,
on
here's the
Templars.
thing. Cassandra, although she sort of serves as kind of an antagonist in number 2, kind of, she's actually really cool. The fucking red bitch that you have to fight at the end of 2, she's not cool.
Well, she's
here's
a
the thing.
Templar.
Yes.
Cassandra isn't.
Cassandra is an Inquisitor,
Cassandra is an
yes.
Inquisitor.
Yes.
The other chick is the
Here's the
Templar.
difference. Here's the difference between the Inquisitors and the Templars. The Inquisitors are fucking warriors, okay? They have like swords and shit and they do cool shit. The Templars are just warriors, but only when they're on drugs. Because they need... Yes, because the Templars...
They have magic resistance.
They
so
need
can beat up
lyrium to survive. If you don't give them lyrium, they die.
Interesting. I don't remember that.
Unless you turn into a
I
gray
remember
warrior.
that
then you just, like,
I
fuck it,
remember
I'm
lyrium is
invincible.
the reason why the one dwarf went from completely normal to
Yes.
That's red lyrium.
That's red lyrium. Yeah,
red
we
lyrium.
again, we can get
And
to
also
that.
Also because of the Buddha doll with spooky powers.
Which is a red lyrium statue, interestingly enough.
To be fair, I do just remember like walking into a room and he's just standing there with dead bodies everywhere, and you walk up to him and go, "What happened?" And he just goes, "Enchantment," and you're like,
No, that's somebody else entirely.
That's a
somebody
whole
else
different
entirely.
person.
He didn't have. Yeah, he used lyrium to
here's
etch
the thing.
enchantments.
Let me
Lyrium is
let me explain Dave's point of view on Dragon Age. He didn't actually pay attention because he was too busy staring at all the asses in Mass Effect.
The ass effect.
Yeah, the ass effect got him, and now he can't remember. He can't remember what the fuck happened in Dragon Age.
Hold on. So I said earlier, lyrium was the same thing that like did not remember that the Templars used lyrium to stay alive, but I remember that lyrium was the same thing that caused that one dwarf to go from being totally normal to enchantment. And then
No, he's just fucking autistic.
That's two different dwarves.
There's Varric's brother, who's
Varric's
like
brother
that
just went nuts after he
stereotypical
got
money grubbing dwarf.
Yeah.
But he also turns into like a heroin addict. Turns into like a heroin.
Specifically say.
No, they don't.
In Origins, not two. Origins.
No.
There's an old man, dwarf, and he has like a nephew.
The adopted boy.
Nephew, yes.
Yes.
And he
that's not the guy that chugs red lyrium.
He's not. I know you're gonna try to say, oh, there was no.
Red lyrium. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying lyrium as a whole is a mineral that the dwarves mine, and the lyrium is something they sell to everyone else. This dwarf from the first game was a totally normal dwarf.
Oh, he wasn't.
They say this multiple times that he was
No,
a totally normal dwarf, and that overexposure over a long period of time to lyrium dust is what caused either that or there was an accident that caused him to breathe in lyrium dust.
Dude, what they tell you is that the jolly salesman who serves as his dad or uncle or whatever was like, I fucking found him on the side of the road. He's autistic.
Yeah. What he was saying is that every other dwarf and every other living being except mages, because of magic, like they can only stand to be around lyrium so long before it starts fucking with them. They start getting diseases, dying, etc. For some reason, autistic boy doesn't have that problem, so he can handle much stronger doses of lyrium with ease, and it never wears on him. So that which speaks to lyrium having something to do with your mind. Or your soul, but they don't ever really expand on that in the first two games, at least. Yeah, no, he was not done that way because of lyrium. He has just always been like he was literally saying he was walking back one day and the kid was just on the side of the road.
He go look this up.
He's trying to Google
Dragon Age autistic dwarf.
Yeah, look up Dragon Age autistic dwarf. His thing was that he could handle lyrium like nobody else could, somehow because he's autistic. The dwarf that gets messed in the head with lyrium is Varric's older brother, aka the stereotypical older.
I do remember that.
The stereotypical dwarf, because he's all like, I don't know if we talked about Riddick games on this channel yet, but. If y'all played Butcher Bay, if you remember that one dude who was like, wings like an angel. Like, that's basically what Varric's older brother did.
at you, that guy. Escape from Butcher Bay. That was a good game.
Okay, so his name is Sandal.
Yeah,
His name
Sandal.
is Sandal.
Sandal.
Battle analysis suggestion: do not run into things.
Battle analysis suggestion. This operator is not qualified to operate this device.
Sandal FedEx.
Sandal
Alright.
FedEx.
Sandal FedEx.
I won't argue with the FedEx because, yeah, like he said, you walk in that one room and he's surrounded by dead bodies, sending the gods same-day shipping.
Yeah.
Okay, Dwarven Rune
Enchantment.
Adopted son of Bodon. Bodon Fedek found Sandal when he was 5 years old, was searching for ancient Dwarven artifacts in a location past and below whatever that is. I can't pronounce it.
Probably.
Sandal was a young boy. Something Thaig, yeah, something Thaig.
It's not Tig, it's Tig.
It's Tig.
Does it say Orton
There's a
Tig?
name. No, it's like AED something. Adakan.
Anyway, it's one of the Dwarven Tigs.
One of the Dwarven Tigs. Pale, hair pale like marble, clear blue eyes. No blight could be seen in him. Boy was within a chamber that contained a glittering wall depicting ancient tales of heroes and paragons. Elves, dwarves, paragons, and other unknown creatures were also depicted in a mosaic filled with gold and gems. Bodon and Sandal asked Sandal what he was doing there. Sandal said, "They're coming." A few minutes later, the party heard Darkspawn. According to Carta Dwarves, Sandal looks like a half-dwarf Adakan bastard who went missing years earlier and whose mother was either an elf or a human. After a few years in Orzammar, Bodon was accused of stealing by a noblewoman, was jailed. Bodon bribed his guards to escape to the surface along with his adopted son. According to Boram, Sandal might be lyrium-addled due to his exposure to lyrium in the deep roads. There you go, motherfuckers.
Okay, but that's speculation at best. Like
Yeah.
they don't say, "Oh, he's like this because of lyrium."
Yes, but a lot of the times when games say like, "Oh, this might be the case," and that's the only real reason they give for something, 9 times out of 10, that's the reason. That's the given.
It's also a
reason in the
cop
game.
out because you could apply that same
Yeah.
sentence to
Because you can-
literally any dwarf, including the drunkard.
They also show you other lyrium-addled dwarves who are nothing like Sandal. And Bodon at some point in the second game goes on to explain to Hawk that whatever effect that lyrium has had on him in the past has enabled him to handle ridiculous amounts of lyrium that nobody else can like stand near. It's like he can basically
So he got a
calm
unique
plutonium.
mutation rather than the normal.
Basically that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
But
not
that-
like the typical
That doesn't change
lyrium
the fact that it
fever.
was
He's got a
caused by
mutation.
lyrium. It's just different.
My
than
theory is
normal
that he
lyrium.
got elder blood.
He could.
I just don't fucking know. He might.
He
I
may
don't know
he may
that.
or may not also have Warden, but I think Wardens can sense Warden.
See, the thing
so-
I find to try to change the subject, I find interesting their take on magic and how magic and mana works, and how mages like.
it's like a dream thing.
So essentially, to do magic, you have to have access to like this dreamscape, which I don't remember what they call it off the top of their head, or off the top of my head. But here is
I
where
think it's
demons
called the
live.
Veil.
Yeah, probably.
It is called
Here
the
is where
Veil, yeah.
demons live. And so, if you are magically inclined and you have the ability to, for your mind or soul, I'm not clear on that, to enter the veil and do things,
If you enter the demon world.
demons can
Demons
attempt
will
to-
constantly be like, "Please let me in your body."
Yeah, more or less.
Oh, baby, please allow me to enter your body.
Which is funny because lust demons aren't even the ones that come out the most. It's usually fucking pride demons. Or what was the other
You
one?
let me have what I want because you're
Rage.
so much less than me. I'd be a one-way ticket to fuck you, man.
Or
Fuck off.
rage demons.
Oh no. Those
Yeah, I think
Fucking
throughout the 2
Anders.
games that I played, there's like 3. Well, Anders is a different thing.
Yeah, we'll get to
But yeah,
Anders.
and then something that I found fascinating about that, I forgot what the process is called, but they basically neuter mages by taking their dreams away, and it turns them into this like
They have no
motionless
emotion, yeah.
robot, basically. And you have you can have an argument in the first game with one such person where you can argue whether or not they're still a person because they don't have dreams or feelings or desires or anything. And I was always like,
taming.
well, yeah, but the same way that you would refer to neutering a dog as taming it from the ancient times. I don't remember what the actual process was called.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But
it's like
silencing
or something.
Non-mages were like, oh, they've been tamed. And they got like this like sun burned into their head, which is like the symbol of Andraste. I always thought that the series, and maybe there's one in Inquisition that would make me happy. I always thought that the series would benefit from a former mage who decided, since I no longer have magic powers to affect the world, I will now train in the way of the sword. And use his robotic-like logical yes-no decision-making to just be a fucking murderous sociopath on Darkspawn and just be this scarily effective weapon.
I don't recall that being a thing in Inquisition. Although there is
like,
a really
because it's like, oh, he lost all his
spirit.
dreams and his ambition and whatnot, and then it's like there's sort of like this hint of ambition where he's just like, all I know is the Darkspawn must be destroyed. I no longer have magic, therefore I will use the sword.
Anyway,
unfeeling death. Like, I felt the series would benefit from a character like that.
So basically, in the recorded history of Dragon Age, there have been 5 Blights, and Dragon Age Origins starts at the beginning of the 5th Blight. Things are starting to get real shitty for the world, but that's okay because your nameless, faceless character exists, and
makes things better.
Yeah, so you can play like a bunch of races, like dwarves and elves and humans, and you know, like a traditional RPG, and you can do different classes like warrior, mage, rogue, like a traditional RPG.
Play warrior, and a warrior can be sword and shield, great sword, or a yeet bot.
And you have, depending on your class, and your actually, I think it's less
charging yeet lord.
I think class is less important in Origins, but depending on your race,
a lot less important.
Depending on your race, there's different backgrounds you can pick, and each background has a whole scenario you play through, and that's all.
That was really cool, actually. I love
it.
That.
It was.
Yeah,
you
like
play
you have
different ones, you can learn more about the world.
Yeah,
so
it was very cool.
To go do that.
The shame of it is most of your background ends up not being important a lot of the time. Although every single one does have a tie-in later in the story at some point.
Did either of you play the mage playthrough at all?
No.
I
fucking hate magic.
What was the name of your like annoying whiny bitch friend at the beginning of the mage playthrough who ends up being a blood mage?
Origins?
Yeah,
I think that's in 2.
Oh, that's in 2, dude. Yeah, that's not in 1. In Origins, you don't have that. In 2, his name is like.
No, it's in Origins.
I don't think it was. Because I recall that being you play.
He wears like a purple robe, and he's all like, "Oh, I fell in love with one of the priestesses here, and we're gonna run away together." And then they get caught, and he decides.
110% sure that was 2.
I feel like
I'm like
2.
100 billion% sure that was Origins. 2 does not have. You don't get to pick who you are. You are Sarah.
Yes.
And you are either a mage or you aren't.
Yes, and I feel like if you pick the mage, it's the background that you get.
If you pick the mage, your sister dies because she's also a mage. If you pick anything other than a mage, your brother dies because your sister's a mage. That's all the choice you get as far as Origin goes in 2.
Actually, no, he's right, because I remember Alistair stabbing that guy, now that I think about it.
Yeah, because you get to one of the other, you have to go around to these different holes and be like, we need you to support the Grey Warden.
Yeah,
and one of the areas
you go to the mage ring at some point. Yeah,
and they're like, oh, we hired an apostate to pull the demon out of my son, and then you go in there and he's just continuing to be a whiny bitch, and he's like, my blood magic's not good enough. And Alistair's like, fuck you, and just stabs him. And I was just like, finally! God!
Yeah. Yeah. So
I could not
Um,
stand that asshole.
yeah, so that's an example of one of the backgrounds. The one I played was like the dwarven commoner person, where you're like in debt to a gangster, and you try to like do shit. You do some shady
literally
shit to try to.
a gangster.
Yeah, and then you know your shit doesn't work out, and you end up getting kicked out of dwarven society. But the important thing is, in all of these scenarios, that you're approached by a man named Duncan, who is a Grey Warden, and he's approaching
before
you.
Go too far off on that.
I figured out what what
like-
whiny bitchaloid's name was.
What?
It's Jowan. Jowan.
I kept wanting to say Ross
Jowan.
Pennon, but
Yeah, he's basically Ross Pennon with longer hair and a worse voice.
yeah.
I wanted to mention.
Never thought I
like,
would miss the voice of
how
Ross Pennon.
that at the beginning at least, like how, because you meet Duncan and Duncan takes you basically to the king, and the king's like, we're gonna go kill these bitches.
People like, Grey
That's
Wardens
like-
are awesome. Let's fucking go.
There's a little
Yeah,
bit more
yeah,
to it than that.
I'll let you
Because
get to
of
the little bit
dude.
more to it in a moment. But like what I recall is like, because I remember being like, if you play as either the human noble or the dwarf noble, there's a very much like, yes, you're the kid from this family, and like it's very and your whole like attitude of joining the Grey Wardens is like, this is my duty, and I like, even though I'm a noble, I'm sacrificing myself so that others can survive.
Which
But-
is a reference to the watch from Game of Thrones.
So then,
Fucking
it is
Ferdinand
actually
von
Grey
Eyre.
Wardens. But then if you
But
play
yeah.
like, let's say the
If you
The
play the
elven
mage,
mage.
it's it doesn't matter what race you are. A mage is a mage because of the way that mages are held in society.
yes, we're
if
not
you play-
talking about the
okay.
mage background. We're talking about a different background. We already
Well, I
covered the
was-
mage background thing.
So like with the
Well,
dwarf
except for the
commoner one,
Duncan part. I was
Duncan's
just going to
just
cover
like
that real quick.
Duncan watches you fight some shit, and he's like, "Yo, you're pretty good with a
He's like,
sword,
you're
dude."
capable. Join my army. Drink demon blood.
Yeah, only he sounds less like that and more like Liam Neeson.
Yeah, he sounds a lot more like Liam Neeson.
All right, what
I'd
was-
like
what
you
was
to
the bit
join my
wanted to cover
army.
there?
The whole thing with the mage background is it's basically get out of your being executed cards.
Yeah,
Because they're like, because you're like, I did not know John was a blood mage. If I did, I would not have conspired to do this. And like, you have several things along the way where you can be informing staff, hey, he's trying to find his phylactery so he can get out of being tethered. And they're like, yeah, like follow him, keep us informed, and then let us know when shit goes down. And then when shit goes down, he resorts to blood magic, and it's like, that was not part of the deal. But the Templars are all like, you consorted with the blood mage, you will be killed. And then Duncan goes, actually, conscription.
Duncan's like, "Hey, hey, man, have you heard of the Grey
Hey,
Wardens?"
actually, I outrank you. Fuck off.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
basically like, I'm a Grey Warden, therefore I have these writs.
And the thing is
from your
about
order
Duncan,
that say
right?
that I
They
can
tell you
conscript
like,
whoever the fuck I
they
want,
tell
whenever
you
the
like,
fuck I want.
"Oh, Duncan's
So
a
I'm
fucking
conscripting him."
badass who's done all kinds
And
of
then he
cool
gets
shit in
killed.
his background." And so when he comes up to the
I
Templars and he's like,
realized what
"Yo, what
those
up?
writs
I'm
are."
Duncan." They're like, "Oh shit, that's Duncan. We can't fuck with that guy."
Yeah, that's
No,
Duncan,
those
the
writs
Grey
are-
Warden,
those
who
writs are,
will literally
"Hey, Templar,
shank
Hey,
anyone.
look at this. Look at this. This is my do whatever I want and get away with it card. Fuck off.
Yeah, he has one of those.
Oh, I have this
Yeah.
other do what I want and get away with it card that's signed from the head of your order that says I can conscript whoever I want, whenever I want,
Yeah. Also, I
for
probably
any reason.
I'm probably gonna have to put up a big fucking spoiler warning earlier than I wanted to, because we're just talking about how people fucking die.
These games have been out for over a decade.
That doesn't matter. People on the internet are fucking salty about it.
And well, then too bad. Bathe yourselves in your own bathwater that comes out
If
of
you
your
hear
eyes.
us say we're gonna talk about a game, we're spoiling
There's
that
gonna be
game.
spoilers. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't want
So-
spoilers, go watch a different show. Or
So basically,
Oh, yeah.
the basic bit of it
game.
is that Duncan recruits you, and you go to join the Order of the Grey Wardens, and you have to do like a couple. This is where you meet Alistair, who's fucking great, and also a future
Played
king.
He's played by somebody named Steve Valentine. I think.
There's also you meet some nameless guy that I don't fucking remember. And then
There's a couple guys, like Sir Davy.
Yeah, and so you go do.
There's a warrior, a thief, and an archer.
You go do this. Duncan sends you off on this quest where he's like, "Go and fetch me Darkspawn blood," and you're like, "Okay, boss." You know, it
Cool.
feels very much like Inglorious Bastards, where it's like, "Fetch me some Nazi scalps." So you're like, "All right, boss, I'm gonna go be a badass and fetch some fucking Darkspawn blood." Then you come back and he's like, "Drink it, motherfucker."
Yeah, he's like, fucking drink it.
He's like,
And everyone's like,
"See this?
what?
You see this fucking zombie blood? Fucking drink it, bitch." You're like,
And then people are like, but I don't want to. And he's like, drink it or I'll shank you.
Yeah, he's
And
like,
then two people
drink
are
it
like,
or
I
you
really don't want to
die.
drink it, so he shanks them.
Well,
Well,
so,
okay,
the,
he
so the
shanks-
first guy,
One
right,
of
is
them's like, fuck
the
it,
first
I'll
guy's
just
like,
drink it, whatever, I can't get out of
man,
it.
I got a family. I don't want to drink this shit, and he gets stabbed. And then the
Yeah.
second guy's like, I guess I gotta
Well, first
drink
of
it.
all, he doesn't just get stabbed. Duncan is like, cooperation is compulsory, Sir Davy.
Yeah, he's like,
He's like, I can't do this. And
he's like, I refuse. And Duncan is like, you're going to die a war hero now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, and then the second guy drinks it and fucking
the
dies.
other guy's like, well, I guess I'm gonna drink it, and
Yeah,
then he has
and
a
Duncan-
horrible aneurysm and dies.
And then Duncan is like, that
And your
one didn't pass
character's like,
the
this
test.
is looking real grim for Mr. Player character.
Yeah, and then you drink it, and because you have the power of
Then you
plot
die,
armor,
except
you
you don't.
survive. So,
You pseudo die.
and so does Alistair. Alistair also survives because he also has plot armor.
I'm pretty sure Alistair already was a warden.
No, he was a trainee.
Oh, he was a trainee.
Duncan was the only actual warden. So
I thought
and
he
then
was already because he technically outranks you, but then he's just like, no,
he outranks you because he's the heir to the fucking throne. That's why.
Well, except that he's the bastard son, so not exactly, because that's something
ends
else
up
you have to
the
set
old
about
son.
doing, and
But,
you have to marry him off to his brother's wife,
But
which is weird for everybody involved.
so you become a Grey Warden, and Duncan tells you like, yeah, the secret to the Grey Wardens is that we're partially infected with the disease, so we can detect it everywhere, and we're also really good at killing Darkspawn. Okay, cool, thanks, Duncan. And then
Duncan immediately
this whole
dies.
thing
By
where
the
like
way, if you tell anybody about this, you're dead.
And
Yeah,
also, if you
yeah.
tell anybody that you drank zombie blood, you die.
Yeah.
We will vehemently deny it, despite its truth. Because nobody would agree to Grey Wardens existing if they knew we like snorted zombie blood.
Yeah, really. The kingdom of Ferelden is under attack by the Darkspawn, and
Ferelden and Orlais.
you and the other two existing Grey Wardens have to go help defend it. And basically what happens is there's a big old battle, and the fucking king dies, and fucking Duncan dies.
Karen Logan.
Yeah, and fucking Logain betrays the king and goes, I'm running off, bitch. And then does
Tell
everything
all the
throughout the rest of the
men
game, does everything he
to-
fucking can to sabotage you. Fucking bitch.
Yeah. The dude, like, he seems like he starts out like he's just really jealous and he just wants the king dead. But like the longer the game goes on, like the more like schizoaffective, bipolar he seems. Like he's got like some serious mental anguish going on. He's just not okay.
And there is a part later
he's not
on in
your
the game.
stereotypical fantasy crazy. He seems like actual real world mentally ill.
There's a part later on in the game where you can either kill him, which most people do because he's a bitch, or you
He's a fucking dick.
or you can spare him and make him drink the zombie blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is funny because then if you do that, Alistair will be like, I will absolutely not be part of this, and he leaves your party.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you replace Alistair with Logain, who is got a dramatically higher tactical advantage to being in your party. However, for story reasons, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Also, he survives the Grey Warden process because of course he does. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Fucking dick.
Because that was the reasoning of the choice. Is like, well, we force him to become a Grey Warden, and either he survives and he has to spend the rest of his days being the thing that he hates, or he dies and we get our revenge anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's way later on in the story. I don't know if I want to go into
Almost the
too
end of the
much
story.
detail of the story. But
almost the end of the
essentially,
Because we have two And Inquisition to cover still.
Yep. I don't want to go into too much detail of the story, but the basics of it is you go on this adventure to stop the Blight. Along the way, you meet characters such as the Witch of the Wilds, Morrigan, who everyone is like, that's the sexy one. You also meet the woman simp of Andraste. Her name is Leliana, and
He's bi.
yes, she is. So she probably really do like Andraste. And then of course you meet Sten, who's a dishonored Quinari with no horns. And you can break him out of jail and just be like, hey, I'm taking this guy. Does anyone have any objections? And they're like, nah, not really.
Well, no, they're like, oh, he killed a child, so he's like sentenced to die, and you like, oh, where's that paper?
Yeah, like, hang on, I've got this do whatever the fuck I want card.
Anyone I want, whatever I want.
because I'm a Grey Warden, I have one of these.
I'm
Yeah,
conscripting this child murderer to go murder evil children.
yeah,
Yeah,
basically. And they're just kind of like, I mean, all right, I guess. They don't really argue with you. They're like, all right, I guess he can fuck off. That's fine.
Like, we don't have to deal with him anymore. Like, I can promise you, you'll never deal
If
with him.
you get the DLC, you can if you get the DLC, you can encounter the living golem named Shale, who is the best companion in the game. Fight me. You can also
Like,
get
anyone will.
you can also get a very drunk dwarf whose name I don't remember.
He's all I remember.
Oh
is he's
yeah, I
the same
remember
voice
the
as,
drunken dwarf man.
It's the same voice as Dempsey from Call of Duty. That's all I remember about it.
He is. He is. the
He
same
Yeah.
plays
as
Richter
Dempsey.
because he's drunk in rage.
Yeah.
His wife leaves him for another woman, and then he jacks off.
I
with
do
her.
recall playing through the game, and every now and then just expect him to be like, Richtofen, what are you doing?
Dempsey. There should have been a
Yes.
Nolan North in that game
And then
somewhere.
just to touch
Okay.
on some of the basic points. Just to touch on some of the basic points of Dragon Age Origins, you go to a place called Redcliffe where they have a blight. They have Darkspawn attacking them every night.
think that's
the one
where Chowan is.
Yes,
and
that's the one where
Alistair
their
stabs him.
son is being controlled by a demon, and if you played the mage playthrough, you go in and fucking Jowan is there.
It's like, oh,
otherwise-
Jowan, hello there.
Otherwise,
you seem
it
to be
just
stuck
becomes.
in corner there, lad.
Otherwise,
this
it,
for me.
it just becomes very, very clear that this child is demon possessed, and you have to do some shit and rescue him.
I wonder if that has anything to do with the voice that's like deeper than the abyss coming out of him.
You also have to go get holy. You have to go to a tomb and get holy ashes. And while you're in the tomb, you meet a bunch of ghosts and shit that are like, "I used to be alive." You're like, "Okay."
And you're like that's cool, bruv.
Yeah, they're like, "Would you like to know the history of the Church of Andraste?" And you're like, "Why is there Mormons in
Nah,
this
not really,
tomb,
bro.
dude?"
It's
You
like
go
not really,
to
bro.
the there's the Circle Tower.
Imagine, like, ghosts to actually be. Is it not, like, dangerous or anything?
Hey man, I
Yeah,
used to be
they're just
alive,
Like,
bro.
you can see
You
me,
like,
a
no.
person that I can talk to? Oh my god, please
Oh, man.
talk to me.
They're functionally
Can you
just
imagine?
Vati video. They're just like, would you like to know the lore of this land?
I was gonna say, like, can you imagine you've been dead for like 200 years, and finally someone comes along who can see you, and the first question they fucking ask you is, "Man, how did you die?"
It's just like that's really
That's the one
insensitive.
thing I don't want to fucking talk about.
Yeah. Then you have
But,
like the one
yeah.
sentinel ghost who's like, I will fight you now, and then
Yeah.
ridiculously overpowered. So you're like, oh, this is hopeless. And then he's like, oh, just kidding, you did fine. Have this really cool set of armor.
And then there's the Circle Tower where you go in there, and it's like, oh man, these mages are doing like blood magic shit and turning into an abomination and stuff. And the Templars are fucking
no.
tied up by desire demons that are also there. So you have to go through and clear everything out and rescue everybody. And then be like, all right, are all you bitches in line? All right, cool. Fucking don't do this again. And then you leave.
Yeah, basically. Stop it. That's when you go to the Mage's Tower, actually.
That's what I was
That's
just
the
talking
Mage's
about.
Tower
Yeah.
we're talking about.
I was talking about the Circle Tower. Yeah.
They're
Um,
up with this
The Circle Jerk Tower.
You also
wrapped
go
up is a
to-
great description of that.
Yes, it really is, and that's as much detail as I'm giving you.
'Cause we never covered that the where the mages are held is called the circle, so I figured I would just clarify that for our listeners.
You go to a place called Brazilian Forest, where you encounter werewolves and elves, and they don't like each other, and you have to solve their squabbles. You can, in fact,
you either get as allies, you get either werewolves or elves.
A werewolf.
technically, there's a way to do both, but it's real roundabout.
That is true. That is true. It's really hard to get
You go to
both.
the Dwarven
Dwarves
city.
or golems.
You go to the
Golems.
Dwarven city of Orzammar, which, if you did the dwarf
Orzammar.
or commoner background, this is where the story tie-in is, where they'll be like,
All the
oh,
fucking
it's
guys
you.
in the castles and shit.
But
And
this
you're
is
like,
where you have to
"Hi,
like,
it's me."
yeah, this is where you have to go find their paragon and do some shit where you like destroy
Happens to be
the.
drunk rage dwarf's wife.
Yeah, you have to go like destroy the
Getting some
Golem
random
Forge or
comrade
whatever the
dwarf
fuck.
girl.
And then
You
there's
go to like the Soul Forge and meet the first golem, and he's like, "I can make you more golems."
and then you're like,
I feel
no, fuck
"Nah,
yeah,
just find the word."
yeah.
And he's like, "I'm gonna fight you then." Meanwhile, I'm always like, "Fuck yeah, golems! Let's beat up some fucking."
Yeah, and that's where
Darkspawn."
you
Like,
find like some
like,
really,
can golems get turned into Darkspawn? No?
That's when you fight
Cool, make me a lot
some
of
really,
golems.
really fucked up Darkspawn is down there. But then there's the Lands
Oh,
Meet,
brood
which
mothers,
is
yeah.
basically where all of the nobles meet together and go, the king's fucking dead. Who's gonna be the next fucking king? And then depending on how it goes, they're like, well, actually, either way, it doesn't really matter how it goes. They're like, it's gonna be fucking Alistair.
No,
Although
actually, that's not
there
true.
is an option to be like, the king's ex-daughter-in-law or whatever the fuck.
The Karen Loghain's daughter, who was the king's wife,
Yeah.
Loghain is pitting her forward to take the throne, basically, so he can puppet her.
Yeah.
Because
So
he
if you
becomes the regent.
pick Loghain for your team, she ends up being the next king or the next queen.
Well, no, you can still put Alistair on the throne and then still be like, Taron Loghain will face judgment in the form of drinking the potion that we are not allowed to tell you what's in it.
Mm-hmm. And then once you're done with all that shit, then you get to go fight the archdemon and save the world. Although there's a little bit in there where you can also fuck the witch.
Fuck a witch and save the world!
Yeah, you can also fuck a witch and save the world. So here's the thing. I'm gonna explain this to you so you get what we're talking about. Basically,
This is only
in
an
order,
option that you can do if you play a male character.
it's true.
If you do not play a male character, you have the option where you can inform Alistair that he will be doing the world a service.
Yeah.
By betting the witch.
By betting the witch.
Yes.
And you just be like, I don't want to hear any ifs, ands, or buts about it. Get in that tent and fuck a witch.
And he's just like, but I'm gay.
I don't
that's
care.
not really his response. His response
You're
is
not
going to
for one night.
Morgan constantly antagonizes him throughout the game, and he does not like her at all.
Yeah.
So when you get to that point, we're just like, hey, Alistair, I need you to put a baby in that witch uterus. He's just like, no. And then you're like, I outrank you. Do it anyway. And he's just like, okay.
He's like, I'll do it
Okay,
for my
explain
bro.
why.
But yeah, so here's the thing. So like I said earlier, the Darkspawn during a Blight, they're led by an archdemon, which is just like a giant dragon fucking demon thing.
It's basically a Darkspawn dragon.
And the way it works is only a Darkspawn can kill the archdemon, which translates to, in this case, only a Grey Warden, because they have Darkspawn blood in them, can kill an archdemon. However, there's a way around it if you're a witch, because if you're a witch,
the reason he brings it up is because it kills the Grey Warden to take on the essence of
yes,
the
it kills the Grey Warden because it's like in Highlander where if you kill it, you absorb it. So if you absorb the soul of the archdemon, you die unless you have a witch friend. Who, if you have a witch friend with an
ancient Pelvinter spell.
Yeah, if you're growing a baby in the witch baby can absorb the archdemon's soul, and you get to live, and the witch gets to carry a demon baby.
Who's in the third game and is actually kind of okay. For some reason.
The witch or the baby?
The baby, who is now a small child, who is just like also autistic.
Also not true. You never meet the child in the third game.
Haha, you were wrong.
You're about to be like, if you got the DLC.
You had to do all of the DLC, and basically you have to fully romance Morrigan. So at the end of the DLC, where normally she goes through the Diluvian Mirror without you, but there's an option if you played all your cards very specifically correct, you go with her.
I will say, when she showed up in Inquisition, I was just like, oh my this fucking bitch again.
God damn it, this bitch again.
I'm like, I'm so fucking tired of. Oh my fucking god, dude.
Block a witch and save the world.
This will tell you how much I like certain characters, right? Because when I saw Leliana in 3, I was like, oh shit, we have a really cool person. And then Morrigan shows up, and I'm like, oh fucking come on, really? God damn it.
Goddamn apostate ass bitch again. Fuck her.
No, please don't.
Alistair shows up in 2 and 3.
Well, fuck her in that one specific instance, because really, honestly, do you want to die?
I think when I was a teenager, I'll put it this way: when I was a teenager and I played Origins, I was probably like, "Yeah, I'm a fucking witch."
This feels like the exact opposite of
right
the P
now, if I
and/or
played Origins, I would be like, "Nah, dude, I'm gonna go die."
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like my millennial depression is set in, so I'm like, just fucking end it.
Yeah, I'll die as a fucking hero.
So now that we've defeated the Darkspawn as the Grey Warden, we move on and become Hawk.
Yeah, so now we transition into
For an hour and a half of first game, we have 30 minutes to talk about the other two.
Yeah, well,
it's pretty much just gonna be him talking about Inquisition because my knowledge goes into 2 and then.
So, Dragon Age 2 does some things. It moves a little bit away from.
When we get to the story, can I sum up the story in 2 sentences and then we can explain?
Sure. Dragon Age 2 moves a little bit away from the more darker, edgier things. It starts out that way, but you kind of get away from it pretty quickly. There's a lot more humor and like more, I don't want to say more emotional characters, but it feels like it feels like they're better acted and whatnot. They're
so much.
Yeah.
Garrus being like Origins the Great, and I'm like,
right, and the reason they say that though is because it's like, yeah, it was real, it was raw, it was dark.
So the reason they say that is because they're Morrigan simps. That's the reason they are that way.
I mean, I wasn't gonna bring that part up, but you're not wrong.
They're only doing that because they're Morrigan simps. Every fucking one of them.
But they're like, oh, the combat was better in Origins, and their story was better, and it was darker, it was more real.
Combat was not better in Origins. The combat was 100 times better.
Combat is not. Like other people, even some people that I've met who are like quasi purists, like, and I'm not saying, oh, this is your assessment of it. No, there are purists who are absolutely like everything about Origins was better. But like, I'll meet people who are like quasi purists. They're like, oh, I like Origins better, and I'm like, but you do have to admit that going forward, all of the games did combat like way better, and every one of them are like, yeah, or they'll be like, oh, fuck yeah, it was better. Like the fact that in 1, it was set your character to attack. Every so many seconds he will attack. And in 2, it's like you have the do something button. You can attack on cue. And then you can also use your abilities the same way that you could in Origin, but you can attack on cue.
So Zeta, why don't you submit for us the story of wait, hold on one second. Why don't you submit for us the story of Dragon Age 2?
It's in another city, and Anders is a terrorist that blows up the church.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Now, I'd like to know an explanation because I know who Anders is. From what I understand, there's no way in hell Anders would ever blow up a church.
Oh, you don't know Anders. He a bitch.
Surprise.
Anders is a bitch.
Anders is a terrorist that blows up the church.
Guy. I hate Anders.
Wow.
For my playthrough, I played a mage, but I played like he's technically an apostate because he learned outside of the circle. But I played a guy who's like, I will always be helpful and I will not, other than being an apostate. Misty, stop. I will not break any laws. I will be helpful to the society, yada, yada, yada. So at the end, where you blow up the church and you have the high magistrate and you have whatever, I think her name was Miranda. Would you stop, please? Whatever the Templars woman's name was, who are basically like, oh, that's it, pick a side. And I was like, yeah, I kind of got to side with the Templars for this one because like Anders, time to die.
Yeah.
He's just like a sassy, whiny bitch the whole game, and he's like,
see,
you're gonna have to edit this out, so everybody be quiet, so I can give Steve a clean space because I'll have to edit this out, and I know you're going to because of what I'm gonna say.
God damn it, we were doing so well. Like an hour and a half in, no edits. It was great. And then you had to go say some shit like that. And here's the thing, Anders fucking sucks. But I did the route where like the High Enchanter. Yeah, we'll get to Anders. We'll get to Anders. Trust me.
Really wants to do good for the world, and he's working hard.
That's what he wants you to think.
He starts out like his day job. He does good work. He's a healer. He does stuff, but he's an apostate because he's operating outside of the circle. So
fucking what?
Yeah, no, I agree because Sarah Hawk is also an apostate, but the difference is Anders is this bitter, stupid old fuck. Not that he's old. And Sarah Hawk is like, I will uphold the law outside of the fact that my magic is technically illegal. But like, you can play him in a manner. It's very difficult to be a criminal in 2 because you have sort of a set character. So it's like, I behave in this manner. And this is like as a mage playthrough where you're also just breaking the law by being an apostate. And the Templar will you can actually run for office in that one and gain the office. Templar leader will tell you at some point, I'm well aware that you're a mage, you're an apostate, and I don't come after you because you have consistently been nothing but a helpful member of the community. So long as you continue to do that, you will not have my ire. Anders, on the other hand, spends the entire game whining and bitching about how the existence of the Templar faction is an injustice against humanity, and mages should not have limits, basically. And how, oh, I heal these people, but the Templars wouldn't want me to, so it has to be in secret. And he just has all these issues with the circle. And like, some of his gripes are legitimate, but the way he goes about it, he's basically like they're an existential crisis to the human race. And his answer to this at one point
sounds very Teventer, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yet he ironically talks about how the Teventers are bad people who did things wrong. But it's because he's got this spirit inside of him. So he's like, they would call me an abomination, which is just
that has something good old Justice.
Yeah, Justice. His aches has corrupted into vengeance.
Because keep in mind, on the heels of the last game, spirit is not a word we use. Demon certainly is, though.
No, well, if you do the mage playthrough, you meet spirits. You meet one in particular whose name is Valor, and you ask him, "Are you a demon?" And he just basically goes, "I don't know. Are you a ghost?" That makes sense to you?
But basically,
okay. But yeah, so then he you have like the head of the church isn't the head of the Templars. The head of the Templars is like subservient to this like grand matron, whatever, she's like a Mother Teresa character. And she's the one who sort of is like constantly telling the Templar girl, like, calm down. There's no need to be upset here. We can talk about this diplomatically. She's like, she hears Anders' plight several times. And like, as going through as a mage, you being a mage, you can be like, these are some issues that we have. And she's like, okay. And she's very respectable, and she is bound by laws and the settings of the church, so she can't just be like, yeah, go do whatever you want. Anders decides to make a statement by blowing up the church with her in it. Anders is a fucking terrorist.
Anders fucking sucks.
100% a political move.
Also, you can avoid that, by the way.
Wow. You can. I don't think so. You can get him to blow up the church without Aveline in it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Aveline.
I was gonna say.
No, not Aveline. Aveline is the warrior.
The church blows up no matter what you do.
Aveline is the warrior that's in your party. I'm talking about the woman who runs the church.
The saintly.
There is
Yeah,
no
no, there's
version
no
of that
avoiding
where
that
she
one.
doesn't die.
There's no avoiding that one. Yeah, yeah, no,
You know,
Good job,
Avalon is
Anders.
the-
You
is the
literally
wise-
got rid of the one person who actually listened.
yeah, he
and
really
then,
did.
like the head magistrate, your character, and I really want to say her name is Miranda, the head Templar.
I think you're right.
Are all just kind of standing there like, and then everybody just sort of looks at Anders, and he's like, "This is the only way," and then everyone's like, "Fuck you."
Is he the final boss, Anders?
No.
You can fight and kill him right there, which I do every time because honestly,
I feel
fuck
like that
Dude,
would be what I do.
dude,
Damn.
I do that as the full apostate
do it the
playthrough
easy
where
way.
I
I
try
do
to be friendly
that's
with
the
Anders,
hard
but
way,
it's
bro.
Like, I don't agree with your
That's
the way
the
that
hard
you
way,
think
bro.
it.
I do it the easy way. I'm like, Anders, what the fuck is wrong with you? Fuck off. And he runs off. And then later, when there's a fight, you
Well,
run
that
off
was
into
good.
the city, and Anders is just sitting there like on a box. And you're like, hey, Anders, you fucked up. And he's like, I know I fucked up. And then you're like, I'm gonna fucking stab you now. And he's like, okay. And then you kill him.
Yeah. He's basically like, I know I fucked up, but the future will be better because I fucked up. And
He's
you're
like,
"Yeah, it'll
you
be better
still
if I
love
do
me.
it."
You still love me, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I fucking love you,
Right,
Anders.
buddy.
I love you so much, Anders.
I just love you so much.
I love you 23
Kill
holes, motherfucker.
yourself. It'll only take a minute. You'll be happy that you did it.
What
Just
the
go
fuck?
over to your
He's
oven
actually-
and shove your head in it.
He's one of your
What the
he's
fuck
one of
are
your
you talking
romance
about?
options in that game. I didn't
Oh,
catch any.
burn him. Oh, burn him.
Oh, see, I wouldn't have any
Anyway,
idea.
so
Yeah,
Anders is one of the
anyway.
romance options in that game, and you can
Here's-
romance him and then be like, "I'm breaking up with you by means of this sword."
Yeah. Here's the thing about Anders, right? The first time I played through Dragon Age 2, when the first time you meet him, he's like, wow, I feel like we know each other so well. And I'm like, bro, that's fuck off, dude. Like, I don't want you
I was
hitting
like,
on me
"This
like
is
that.
suspicious."
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
like,
you hear
wow,
about
I
the
feel like I'm in
killer
love with you.
living
And
down
I'm
in
just like,
the
you're
dumpster
creepy,
in the
dude.
ghetto,
Fuck
like-
off.
I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like, ghetto needs some healers. You're doing some good work here. And then the more I got to learn about this guy, I'm like, you're a fucking asshole. The world's not that bad. Like, I understand that the way the government is
Right.
set up with. Like,
Meanwhile, if I may, a much better story is the story of Meryl, where she's a blood mage, and she's, you know,
sweet innocent Meryl.
she's also oppressed for being a mage,
She's
non-circle mage.
also oppressed for
also.
being an elf.
Yeah, and she rather than going fucking bonkers like Anders does, she's just like, oh, it's not so bad. I can hide away from everybody, and it'll be okay. And you know, your character Hawk is like, you ain't gotta hide shit. Like, we're gonna go fucking fix this problem. And then fucking Anders
Yeah,
blows up a
he's
church.
like, we're gonna fix that cool Superman. What's funny is she was all like, or when Hawk finds out, no matter what your class is, when Hawk finds out that she's a blood mage, he's like, you what, mate? And she's like, oh yeah, I talked to this demon. He was really helpful, answered a lot of my questions about the mirror thing. And he was just like, okay, bye. And then your character's like, you agreed to something and you didn't realize it. And then later it turns out that like she accidentally agreed to like let him into the real world or something. And then that's probably the one that you were talking about before, where he shows up and he's just like, ah, oxygen. Then you're just like, fuck off, go back to the dream world. Way now, be gone. Shoo.
As you might be able to tell from all the conversation we've had so far, the big theme of Dragon Age 2 is essentially magic versus fuck magic. Like,
Yeah. In the beginning of the
Pro-magic
Inquisition,
versus
it was the
anti-magic.
middle of
Sorry.
problem.
I know that what you meant was pro magic versus anti magic. What I heard was magic versus fuck magic.
see, that's because
No, it's not
that's-
wizards versus bards.
that's because you're the one that gets up in the mic and goes, pussy.
Hang on, I got a thing for this.
So anyway, the very beginning of Dragon Age 2, you're Hawk. You're playing as Hawk, whether you play male or female Hawk, it doesn't really matter. You can play either one. Hawk and his family is escaping from the Blight that happens in Dragon Age Origins, and they decide rather than staying staying there, they move to a city known as Kirkwall.
Yeah.
They get on a boat and they leave. But before they get on that boat, that's where you meet Aveline, the night captain, who's at the time
because her husband is she's on the night captain. Yeah, her husband is a Templar who's dying.
Yeah.
Due to dark blood exposure.
Yeah, and then also you also meet Flemeth, who I think
I was gonna say you meet Dragon Jesus.
I believe she gives you
Dragon Antichrist.
I believe she gives you a thing where she's like, take this, hold on to it, you'll need it later, and then she sort of, I think she saves you from like a big.
As a dragon,
Also,
fucks up
by
a
the way,
button.
she goes from like old American granny to suddenly
yeah.
I have a British accent in the second game.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's the same voice actor the whole time. It's just in the first one. Her character
It's
model
Captain
is like this
Janeway
old
the
hag.
whole time.
Yeah, it's Captain Janeway. The whole time it's Captain Janeway. In the first one, she has like this old decrepit hag model, and in the second one,
she's got flowy ass robes.
She's got like flowy ass robes. She's like the
So far
apostate.
above you.
Oh, also, I
Yeah,
missed an
exactly.
important detail.
Teach me how to turn into a dragon. That'd be a
This
neat trick.
entire story, the entire time you're playing Dragon Age 2, going through Hawk's story is being told to Cassandra by Varric. So it's Varric telling the
Why
story.
at the beginning it's so ridiculously over embellished.
Yes. Which so
We
the
must praise him, brother.
the tutorial, they make you fucking awesome overpowered for the tutorial. And then at the end of it,
they make,
Is that
if
very
you play the mage, it's you and your brother, and they make you like over the top, ridiculously handsome, and it's all like, "We are outnumbered, brother. It doesn't matter. We shall destroy them all, brother."
Yeah, and you're like, I have the giant
You're
fuck
just like
off
these
sword.
ridiculous
Ha!
Aragons
You know?
and action movies.
Yeah, and then Cassandra cuts it off and goes, "This isn't real. Tell
It's
me
like,
the real
"That's
story
bullshit."
there." Yeah, Varric.
With her super hot French accent, she's like,
Varric.
"Cut the bullshit and tell me the real story."
Varric, this is not
But
the
I know how to
real
do a
story
French
of Hawk. Tell me the real story of Hawk, Varric, before I cut off your nuts. So
He's
then,
like, "Okay, I'm gonna roll more like this," and then it was like, "No, I didn't actually fight the dragon. The dragon
Yeah,
was
yeah.
She gave me.
mhm. Yeah. So
She fucked.
basically, you fuck off to Kirkwall, where you find out you're supposed to have family there, and you do, but you find out, oh, he's a broke ass bitch because he spent all his money gambling and he don't have a house no more. So then you have to go off and do work for either a really shady person or a less shady person, but still shady.
Who are we talking about? The
Because there's like
gangster or the dwarf? Because they're both pretty
they're
fucking
both
shady.
pretty fucking shady. Yeah. If I recall correctly, the gangster was like trafficking people.
Yeah, he's like,
and the
"Get these
dwarf-
people in the door.
The
and I'll
dwarf was
get
just
you
like
money."
the dwarf was just like a fucking pirate or something. I don't know.
Well, he's doing this expedition, but he's all like trying to do all kinds of deals, all seditiously and like on all.
Oh yeah, oh that's right. Yeah,
And that
So-
one's Varric's older brother,
yeah.
and that's
So-
how you meet Varric. Varric is like takes one look at you and he goes, "Well, I'm hiring this guy, so I don't care if you're not hiring him."
Yeah, basically, you meet Varric. Him and his brother are going on an expedition to the Deep Roads, which I don't think I've mentioned yet this entire episode. But that's like the underground where all the Darkspawn are.
Yeah, yeah. Since we were talking about Baldur's Gate and D&D, if you're familiar with the concept of the Underdark, the Dwarven kingdoms have like this highway that connects like all the old taigs that have since long since been abandoned because of the Blight, called the Deep Roads, which is it's literally an underground highway. When you're on them, but they've discovered an entrance to like deeper deep roads that are from time forgotten, basically, and that's what they're attempting to go expeditionize. Is like an archaeological thing to go talk about like the past pre-Blight and stuff like that, ages that have been since lost.
Yeah. So you go down there.
Ridiculous amount of money.
You go down there with an expedition party, yourself and Varric.
Money.
And Varric's brother. So basically, you go down on an expedition into the Deep Roads. You're looking for some treasure and shit so you can get money so you can buy your house back. I should also mention Hawk's poor mama is here as well, and she wants to get out of like the shitty ass like bar basement that you're staying in, and back into her family home. So you're trying to help her out with that. So you go down there, you find some ridiculous bullshit, and this is where you're introduced to red lyrium, which makes people go fucking nuts. And you end up getting separated from Varric's brother. And when you find him again, he's fucking nuts, and he has this fucking statue. And then
He's got the Buddha doll with the spooky powers.
He fucking locks you. He basically like locks you in and runs the fuck off, and you don't really know. You don't really know what happens to him until later in the story. But you and Varric escape. You make it back to the surface.
Immeasurably ancient pre-deep roads Underdark. And you meet, these weird rock creature things. One of which is possessed by a demon who's just like, please kill me so I can go back to the dream world. This fucking sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do remember that. He's like,
I've been here for several thousand years. I just want to go home. This is awful.
Stab me. End me. You stupid millennials know nothing about suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
He's sitting there like I have been here for so long. With nothing but dumb rock people. Send me back.
So basically,
the one demon who will never ever complain about being trapped in the Veil again. He'll be like, other demons are like, I can't wait to the next dumb mortal I can, and he'll be like, no, you don't know how good you have it here.
So basically, at this point, you once you come back from that, you're like, you come back and you're sort of like, check us out, we did this really cool thing, and that's kind of when you start to gain a little bit of notoriety.
Can I ask a question? Do they ever explain why demons want to leave the Veil?
Because the Veil fucking sucks.
It's painful for them to be there, and like the living world, like you can like imagine envying being alive. They're not really alive when they're in the Veil. Like you can feel the air on your face, you can taste, you can smell, you can touch. Like they wanna sit down at the ocean shore and just stare out into the vastness of the ocean.
Okay,
and then
next
just go
question.
do demony things, and like because it's in their nature to do things like trick and whatnot.
Okay.
And, like, do that in
I just
person.
say, why can't we just have diplomacy then? That seems totally reasonable.
Well,
Now
because they have to. They're parasitic. They're not like the spirits are symbiotic and the demons are parasitic. You use up your life force by being here, which is why they can be separate from you. But you die a fuck ton quicker, and they don't care because they'll just find another stupid mortal because mortals breed. So they'll just, when they use you up, they'll just go find that it's like drugs for them. Like imagine having the craziest high. The needle is you.
Interesting.
So there's a couple of things that happen in quote unquote Act 1 a little bit before you go into the Deep Roads, once you've gotten into the city, because you have to do some shady work for some shady people to get into the city because there's a fee. They don't let you in without money.
Yeah.
So you have
See,
to
what
go
I
earn
recall
money.
from all
Her
that
name's Meredith.
is
Not,
at some
by the
point
way.
you have to go talk to the leader of the Qun.
Yeah, that's
the
later.
Arashakti
That's
or
later.
whatever.
That's later.
Yeah, what the fuck was his rank called? It wasn't Padishah.
Arashak.
Arashak.
Yeah, Arashak.
So basically, you go to it's like a Dalish camp, I think.
Yes, I recall the Dalish camp.
Sundermount, I believe, is the name according to the wiki. And that's where you meet Meryl, who is Best Girl. Fight me. She's a Dalish
I
blood
thought
mage.
you
She's
thought the other
adorable.
girl was best girl.
Which one?
She's not in
Liliana.
Cuba.
Liliana.
No,
She's not in
I
Cuba.
said Liliana was cool. I didn't say she was Best Girl. Best Girl is Meryl.
Meryl, out of all three games, Meryl is definitely Best Girl. Sweet,
I
innocent
don't
Meryl.
remember Meryl very well. So
She's
She's,
a cute,
she's
cute little Dalish elf with like a
adorable.
very high Scottish
Yeah.
accent.
She's got like
That does
it's
sound
yeah,
cute.
it's not exactly Scottish. It's kind of like a very
It's like
particular
Scottish Irish.
area. It's from a very particular area in Ireland.
It's very
that not
Welsh.
you guys will-
I'll have to
Nah,
see if
come
Dragon
on.
Age 2 is something I can put on my computer through Steam, or if my computer.
You have an
doesn't
Xbox
install for
still,
it.
don't you?
No, I do not. If I do, it doesn't work.
Let's see. What's a couple of other things that happened during Act 1?
Here's a question. What's important that happens?
Well,
in
you
the
meet
story of
you meet
Dragon
the
Age
you
2?
meet most of the cast in Act 1. So you meet Meryl, you meet Anders, Aveline becomes captain of the Knights, I think, in Act 1.
Well, she becomes a guard, and then she
that's
is
right.
like
She becomes a
ranking
guard. Yeah.
There's like a whole
You
story
also
to each
meet
character.
You also meet
The primary story of Dragon Age 2, the story of you and Anders dealing with the Templars.
No, the primary
the primary story
you.
is Hawk trying to deal with all the bullshit going on in the city. But you also meet
and
the
sort of
High
sorting everything out.
You meet the High Enchanter and you meet the High Templar.
I was gonna say, because
in
I
Act
remember
1
you
as
guys
well.
made a big deal about them blowing up the church, and that is the event that sets off the story of Inquisition. When you put Inquisition in
that event is
it
the final level and boss fight of the game.
I was gonna say
that's the end.
because when you put
of the game.
Inquisition in the disc tray and you watch the opener is that the church gets blown up.
It's a different church, though.
Yeah. Well, the point is somebody blows up another church because Anders.
I thought that Anders church that blew up was the same church.
Well, because it's a BioWare game, your save files matter. So if you don't kill Anders in the second one, then he is an Inquisition, still blowing up churches like a fucking terrorist.
And here's the thing.
However, I can't imagine letting Anders live.
The church that blows up at the beginning of Inquisition, it's not the same one. I can tell you because you're not in Kirkwall. You're in Orlais.
You're back on Thetis.
Wait. Then why is Varric there getting interrogated?
He's in Kirkwall.
He's not.
Being
He's in
interrogated
Kirkwall being
by
interrogated.
a character who ends up in the third game. Okay, so the events of 2 happen, and then the events of 3 or Inquisition happen. The entirety of 2 is taking place after the final boss battle, and Kirkwall is like all the smoke and whatnot, and the Inquisition is coming to be like, what the fuck happened here?
Exactly.
And she's inquiring of Varric, because Varric is called the storyteller. So she's like, this is your whole thing. Tell me what happened here. And 2 is Varric telling 2 to, I forget her name?
Cassandra.
Cassandra. Which then ends with her being like, so then you need to find Sarah Hawk to get the missing pieces of the story. And then 3 kicks off with basically, because of Anders' bullshit of blowing up the church in Kirkwall, other churches start getting detonated elsewhere in Thetis because he's not the only person who feels that way. So then it becomes this like apostate versus Templar thing, which Beard can go into more because I didn't play more than the tutorial, but they make it pretty clear that there is something of a civil war. Not like a civil war, but like there is an insurrection.
We'll get to that.
The church that blows up is blown up by somebody who did not survive, and like your tutorial boss is a pride demon, so they do not pull any punches in Inquisition.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different thing in Inquisition. Yeah, so also in Act 1 is where you meet Justice, Anders' spirit friend, quote unquote.
Yeah, you meet him in the
you have to go into the Veil real quick and do some shit at some point.
Oh, that's something else. There's one of the missions that you go on. I forget where it is exactly, but like it had something to do with the Mage Tower. Somebody did something and you have to like go into like the middle section between the Veil and the real world. And if you have Anders with you, you go into this area and he suddenly starts glowing blue and his eyes start glowing and you're like, Anders, what the fuck is up? And Justice is like, Anders isn't home right now, but be cool.
That's what I'm talking about. This is it's called Tranquility. It's that mission's name. So Act 2.
Yeah, that's what it is. When they knew the mages, it's called Tranquilizer.
Yes.
They're the Tranquil.
Act 2 is the act where basically the Quinari guy who's to be fair, so there's a Quinari ship that quote unquote crashed off the shore of Kirkwall.
Oh, it
so
crashed, but they don't leave because they have a religious duty.
Yeah, they have some sort of book thereafter, which you find out one of the people in your party has later. But they haven't left the city because of their quote unquote religious duty, and they're also there as quote unquote guests. They're not really.
Her name is Vanessa, right? The pirate chick.
Isabella.
Yeah, she's second best girl.
She's pretty cool, I guess.
She's pretty close to Meryl. The other thing is, if you start getting like romantically involved in Meryl, she basically like suddenly is the mom friend, and she's like, if you hurt Meryl, I'll fucking cut your balls off.
I think that's hilarious because the two of them do not get along initially.
No, but like she's such the mom friend for Meryl. Like it's adorable.
The second act is basically about dealing with the Quinari in the city. There's a couple other things that happen, such as Hawk's mom gets murdered by a psychopath.
But not just murdered, but like, how delicately should I put this?
Stitched together like some sort of freakish Frankenstein motherfucker.
Dismantled.
Yeah.
Partially dismantled in an attempt to recreate somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a big moment in the game where you're like, oh, that hurts. Because your mom has been the sweetest person up to this point.
At the beginning of the game, one of your siblings dies.
Yeah.
At the end of the end of Act 1 is the Quinari, I think, and the end of Act 2 is the expedition.
Wrong.
So
Other way around.
During the second act, it's not the big thing.
Super early, dude.
The expedition's the end of Act 1. The end of Act 2.
Then shortly after that, your mom dies. However, the thing is, depending on certain choices, your remaining sibling can be either killed during the expedition or incarcerated above. So, like, I did the mage playthrough, and you get your brother. If you bring your brother down into the expedition with you, he dies. Period. There is no way to save him. If you have your sister instead, and you do either warrior or rogue playthrough, I was all paranoid, and I was like, well, I don't want to be left alone, so I'll leave my sister up top. She gets arrested for being an apostate because I think her name's Bethany. Is a mage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to keep your sibling alive, insist. If you're a mage playthrough, insist that your brother stay upstairs to take care of dear old mom. If you're any of the other classes, insist that your sister come with you. Because otherwise she gets made tranquil. So you basically don't have a sister anyway.
At the very end,
and then in Act 2, your mother dies. So the first playthrough I did ends up just being
everything was fucked. Yeah,
in this big house.
He has to rely on his bro Varric for emotional support.
Yeah, because there's nobody else.
To be fair though, dope at that. He's dope.
Varric? Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, Varric's great.
Varric's
fantastic.
Varric's very much the emotional support animal. I mean, bard.
So at the very end of Act 2, there's this very cool. The end of Act 2, basically, the Quinari take over the city, and they fucking demand, bring us the goddamn book right now, or we'll kill everyone. You fucking bitches.
Well, it's not even just that, because like you can have given them the book by this point. You can talk Vanessa out of it. Not Vanessa.
No, you cannot.
Well, one way or the other, you can get her to hand it over, and the era shock is just like, well, see, the thing is, this city thrives on corruption, and it would be heresy for me to leave with this level of just bullshit happening. So we're gonna run the city now. And then the
other thing that I want to mention is, throughout Act 1 and Act 2, the Quinari boss, the Arashok, he says many times he has a lot of respect for Hawk because Hawk is not a corrupt bastard. Yeah, he's like, oh, Hawk is pretty cool. And then at the end of Act 2, you have to fight him. And he's like, I respect you as a warrior, basically. But
regardless of your class.
Yeah, you're not gonna get in my way. And then you have to fight you have to fight the
Yeah.
Arashok, and it's an epic battle. Or if you're like me, you run around the pillars and you drink a bunch of health potions and hit him, and then run away behind the pillar and drink a bunch of health
It's
potions,
mostly
and
a
then
lot of him ramming you and you running and gunning.
yeah.
And if you're a melee only warrior, good fucking luck, and I hope you maxed out your health potions because you will need every one of them.
And then at the end of it, you fucking behead his ass.
Yeah. And then you tell the Quinari to get the fuck out of my city.
Yeah, then you tell the Quinari to leave, and they're like, well, the Arashok's dead, so I guess we gotta go.
And then it's like, oh, who's going to be the next Viscount? And you can either have no Viscount.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right,
just
because
go
the
to same power
Viscount
vacuum.
died.
Yeah, the Quinari,
The Arashok killed him.
because he's like, you failed to stop all this bullshit, so the buck stops on you and executes him, summary execution style.
Yeah.
So one of the things, you have like 3 different options. You can put somebody else in the seat of the Viscount. The Viscount seat can remain empty for the rest of the game, basically. And it's essentially the woman who's in charge of the church sort of becomes like the de facto political head of the city until she gets blown up. Or you could take the seat of the Viscount, which Meredith, and that's the High Templar's name is Meredith. I looked it up a couple minutes ago. She won't like if you're a mage, but that's when you have that whole speech of the whole like, you're a boon to the city, and the only reason I don't arrest you is because it would be of no use. Like, it would be a net detriment to the city because you're such a good guy.
And this is also where you gain the title of Champion of Kirkwall, because you did that bullshit.
Which is what you then would use to be like, I should be the Viscount.
And then basically, Act 3 is the whole like Anders gets really worked up and blows up a fucking church.
Nope.
So well, Anders is bullshit. He's a lot of bullshit. So basically, Anders goes and blows up a fucking church. Here's the problem.
Who the fuck blows up a church?
Here's the problem with that. Meredith goes, "Oh, that's the mage's fault. We need to kill the mages." And the high enchanter
goes,
he's
no,
like,
it's Anders' fault.
he's
We
like,
have nothing to do
it's
with it."
Anders' fault. Yeah, it's not our fault. Stop fucking killing us. So here's what ends up happening.
But-
As Hawk, you have to wander through the city where there's a fucking civil war between Templars and mages. You have to go find the high enchanter who decides, fuck this bitch. I'm going to use blood
you missed
magic
a
and
couple
become a fucking abomination. So then you
missed
have
a
to
couple
kill
things.
him.
You then get his staff, which at this point in the game, if you've been a mage, you've kind of been eyeing that staff.
Or, if you're like me and you played the warrior,
get
you
it
don't
and
give
it
a
spots
goddamn
you,
shit
like,
about his staff, and you're like, I have the fucking Daedric Blade of Awesome. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And then
you missed the key detail there is Meredith's justification for putting all the mages to the sword is the people, regardless of whether or not Anders acted alone, the people won't see it that way. All they'll see is a mage killed the whatever her title is.
Well,
so
then you have
the
to go
people
fight
will
Meredith.
demand vengeance.
And here's where I'm
Yeah,
going to say
and you just-
something. Here's what I'm
Red
going to say
Lyrian
something.
addled Meredith.
Here's what you find out, right, throughout the story, okay? You got... remember when Varric's brother escaped from the Deep Roads with the red lyrium statue? You find out later, because you find him.
Spooky powers.
You find out later he sold the statue, but now he wants it back because he's fucking crazy and the voices are talking to him. By the way, I haven't even mentioned this entire time. I haven't even mentioned this entire time your boy Fenrir, who's the sickest,
Fenris,
edgiest
actually.
elf. Fenris, whatever.
He's basically just Elven Balthier, but edgier, and
Yeah.
has a thing against shoes for some reason.
And of course I couldn't remember him because he's the rogue of the party, but so he disappeared from my memory.
He's actually a two-handed warrior, but he's got the rogue.
He's got the rogue archetype, yeah. But anyway, I say that because you on that mission you have, or you should have, him with you because there's like important dialogue.
Yeah, because he's got like special senses and shit.
Yeah. But
He's got lyrium
basically,
etched
you
into
find
it.
out, oh, he sold it to somebody. Well, what you find out is he sold it to Meredith,
Meredith,
and she put it in her
he decided
sword.
to turn it into a sword.
So she's been going fucking nuts this whole time because she has the
'cause she's
special
got
red
fucking
lyrium
Beanie
spirits
Buddha
talking to her.
on her back, a foot from her ear, going, you're a special lady.
Yeah. So she basically gains red lyrium superpowers, and you have to fight her, and she like moves statues around and shit with her red lyrium superpowers.
Yeah, and then when you beat her, she turns into a colossus.
Yeah, you beat her, and she turns into a statue, and then Hawk is like...
She turns into this big-ass super colossus statue.
There's this whole moment where Hawk turns around, and the whole fucking city, mages and Templars alike, are just staring at him. And he just like throws the sword down and fucking walks off.
Yeah, he's like, at the end of it, he's basically like, I'm fucking over Kirkwall. This is bullshit.
Yeah. He's like, this is what happens.
Garbage for you people, and I get this.
Well, he doesn't hardly, like, I think he says like a very short one-liner, depending on whether or not, because as you make dialogue choices throughout the game, your character becomes more cynical, I guess caring, you would say, or sarcastic. So you will get a short one line based on which of those three your character is the most. Obviously, I did sarcasm. So his quick-witted one-liner is just something along the lines of like I don't remember what it was, but it was something akin to like I left one war for another and I'm done fighting it. The caring one is basically comparing the war here to the Blight, and I've never played a cynical role, so.
The cynical role, he's basically just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you're cool, fuck you, I'm out.
That makes sense. But like, all the cynical dialogue options, I'm like, oh, it's so cringy and edgy, and it's just like, I get enough of that out of Fenris.
Yeah. And then there's Dragon Age Inquisition.
This is where my knowledge ends. So I'm going to go put my lunch in the microwave.
I'm going to try and make this, since we've already been going for 2 hours, I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. So basically, at the beginning of... At the beginning of Inquisition, your character is in basically what's happened is like they're very aware that there's a Mage and Templar war going on. So like essentially the Pope of this world, the high priestess, calls a meeting basically of the Templars, of like the biggest Templar and the biggest Mage and their factions, and they meet in like the Vatican, pretty much. And at the beginning of the game, when you push the Start New Game button, the Vatican fucking explodes. And then you go to the character creation, and you're in like this weird, mystical, like, it's like, oh, there's like dust floating around, and there's like shades of green and stuff, and you create your character, and that's when you find out, oh, you're standing in the fucking ashes of the Vatican. So your character somehow miraculously survives this explosion and now has this weird symbol on their hand, which Cassandra then assumes you're the cause of portals. The explosion, yes, but there's all kinds of portals that have opened up to the Veil, and they're just, letting demons out all over the world. So the plot of Inquisition is essentially you have to go throughout the world and go close all these portals and figure out what the fuck is going on and why the fuck there's all these demons invading. And a lot of things happen during the game. You meet a lot of familiar faces such as Flemeth and Morgan and Leliana, who is the spy master. And she's very, very good at it.
From being in Origins as like the most wholesome church girl.
Oh, she's still holy as fuck in the third game, but she's also like, how she is a rogue. She is a rogue in Origins. She's a rogue when she joins your party. In Inquisition,
that's like she had like a background about that, but she left all that behind to join the church. Yeah.
Kinda, yeah. But then when you recruit her, she goes back to it. So it's like, eh. When you meet her in Inquisition, she's already in the Inquisition. She's Cassandra's bestie, and she is the spy master of the Inquisition.
Remind me, I thought Cassandra had the red sword of Go Mad.
No, that was Meredith.
Okay.
Cassandra is the one that's grilling Varric the whole time throughout Dragon Age 2. The one that's constantly going, did this really happen, Varric? Yeah. Which, and you find out playing through Inquisition, Cassandra's actually a very, very cool person. She was just in a really weird position. Your mic's muted, Dave.
Yeah, she's in a weird position because fucking Anders blew up the church.
Yeah. And then the Vatican blows up and they blame you for it at the beginning of Inquisition.
And he's like, you think I'd have stuck around?
Here there be technical difficulties, yo. So anyway, essentially what happens is you have to convince Cassandra that you didn't blow up the church. And it's very hard to do because you've got the magic symbol on your hand that can open and close portals.
It says that you blow up the church.
Yeah, basically. So you do eventually convince Cassandra with mostly with the help of Varric and Leliana, because they talk to you and they're like, oh, you're actually not an asshole. By the way, let me just casually mention that when you show up to the Inquisition, Varric's there. He's in the Inquisition. He's joined them. He's there.
Well, Varric's
like he might have been forced that against his will.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that because you're like, he kind of doesn't like Cassandra so much.
I'm gonna say, just based on what I know from 2, it does not sound like something he would have gone out of his way to do. Probably he's just pressed in the service.
The cast of characters from Inquisition, I love the cast of characters from Inquisition. They're fantastic. You get a Quinari named Iron Bull who's just like, bro, I'm a fucking giant muscly man and I can kill shit, and it's great. He's kind of like Grog Strongjaw, but slightly more intelligent.
So is he basically like Macho Man Randy Savage with a name like Iron Bull?
Not quite that ridiculous.
Oh, he's going that direction.
He's headed there, yeah. He's headed there. No, he's got like a proper British accent. But it's like I say, it's a bit more like Grog, where he's like, hello, I'm a handball. Did you know I killed a dragon with my bare hands? You also get Sarah, who's an elf, and I love her. She's fantastic. She don't give two shits about nobody. I'll put it this way: there's a scene if you up the friendship enough. There's a scene where you're talking to her about shit. You're sitting on a rooftop talking to her because she's like the rogue but with a bow. So you're sitting on a rooftop talking to her, and one of the things you're basically talking about being free spirited, and one of the things she does is she has a plate with I think it's a cookie or something like that on it. And she fucking tosses it off the roof. She's like, yeah, I can do whatever the fuck I want, and throws the cookie. And then you just hear Cassandra off screen go, oh, who the fuck threw that? And you and Sarah are like, oh, shit.
I'm going.
Yeah. You meet Josephine, who's an Orlesian noble, who helps you basically. She's like the secretary of the Inquisition, and she has that sweet French accent, and she's amazing as well.
All the Orlesian ladies got that sweet French accent.
Yeah. There's you meet a spirit named Cole, who you don't realize is a spirit because he acts very much like a human, and then at some point you find out he's a spirit, and people freak out a little bit and go, oh, he's a spirit, he's got to die, and then you have to be like,
and then he's all,
but yeah. He's like, they're like, oh, he's got to die, and you're like, why? He hasn't done anything to any of us.
It's like he's been a spirit this whole time, and nothing has happened.
Yeah,
so.
he's literally like, I just want friends. I don't want to hurt anybody. So there is an option to actually kill him at some point, but I never picked that option because I'm like,
sounds cruel and unusual.
Yeah, it's like he's a sweetheart. He doesn't mean you any harm. They're like, oh, he's dangerous. And then there's a mage lady, very noble. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's very, very cool. Let me look up. Hang on.
Then there's like an elven mage dude who, spoilers, is like a elder god.
Oh yeah, fucking Solus. That's
Yeah,
his
the
name.
wolf.
Yeah. Dragon Age Inquisition. What are your characters?
He like accidentally kills Plymouth.
Oh yeah, there's
What?
there's fucking
I mean, he kills Plymouth.
oh yeah, there's a Grey Warden.
Well then.
There's a Grey Warden named, yes, he does, by the way. There's a Grey Warden named Blackwall. He's a Geralt type of character. He's like I've lived in the mountains for 20 years. I've got a big beard and I've got a big sword. That's who Blackwall.
Also got another big sword.
Mhm.
That's
There's a Balthier type gentleman mage character named Dorian. He's fantastic.
Isn't Fenris in
You
that
look
game?
like you're not enjoying whatever you're eating.
It do be hot though. It's just the sauce for the General So's because
obviously
gave me the healthiest version of it.
You get Varric in your party, obviously. Oh, Vivian, that's her
I
name.
love
Oh my
about
fucking god, Vivian.
Varric.
Vivian's
Varric,
great.
you have other rogues are like, oh, this is the archery tree, but for Varric, it's like, this is the Bianca tree.
Vivian is very much the noble lady who's like, you diss her friends. Like you're like, your face looks like your mom shut you out, and then she fucking destroys you in the nicest way possible, and like humiliates the shit out of you in front of all your friends by just saying really nice words.
Like that, and she just goes, oh, sweetie.
Yeah. Yeah, she's and she's also got a little bit of the step on me mommy thing going on, where she's the mommy.
Never been a fan of that shit.
Just a little bit. That's not like her main character thing. There's just enough of that there to be like, oh my god, she's the power woman.
Sounds like she's just like an old matriarch type character.
Also, I just also want to point out that you can meet both Alistair and Loghain in this game, depending on your choices in the previous games. But anyway,
By the way, does my voice get harder to hear when I lean back? Now that I'm using my computer mic?
kind of a little bit, yeah.
Fuck. See, this is why I like the headset. Now I gotta figure out why the hell my computer won't use it.
But to make a long story very short, because we're short on time, essentially, you and the Inquisition have to go and fight off you have to go close all these portals and fight off all these demons and try to figure out why the fuck all these portals are opening. You meet Hawk because Hawk has some special information for you about why these are happening. You go on a mission into the Vale with Hawk and another Grey Warden that's not Blackwall, and you have to choose. They introduce this warden to you kind of earlier on in the game. And he's like really nice to you and stuff. He's like overly nice. Like they're trying to really hone it in. Like this is a really nice, super wholesome.
Later.
They like this is a really nice. It's worse. It's worse. Let me finish. They're like, this is a really nice, really wholesome person who really wants the world to be a better place, and he's super nice, guys. You really love him. And then you go into the Vale, and at some point they're like, so you have to either kill that guy or kill Hawk. And who the fuck is gonna pick that guy? You have to choose between that guy dies or Hawk dies. Nobody's gonna pick that guy. They're like, oh yeah, Hawk's gonna live. They're not gonna let the other guy live.
This is now an important thing to bring up. That's an aspect of it being a BioWare game. Like you mentioned a minute ago, you can meet Loghain in Inquisition. However, if on the same device you have a save game from Origins where Loghain died, you can't really. Well,
you can't,
dead
yeah.
Now, can you?
No.
So, if you played 2, then you probably are going to pick Hawk. If you never played any other Dragon Age game, you don't know who this guy is. He's just Hawk. He's supposed to be cool or whatever. And like, yeah, he's cool to you, but then it becomes an actual choice between.
I also will say, and this is one thing that breaks my immersion a little bit with Inquisition, where it's like, if you if you go with default Hawk, right, when he shows up in Inquisition, there's a scene where like he turns around and you're like, oh, that's Hawk, and he's in updated graphics and he's cool. And then if you use your imported version of him from the previous game, he turns around and you're like, why is his face a potato? What the fuck?
Yeah,
because the character creation data doesn't quite port over very well into the new game, so it looks kind of fucked up.
Why is he potato?
Yeah, I don't know if they fixed that in a patch later on. I just know when I played it, I was like, oh, whoops. But that's a very short part of the story. But essentially what you end up finding out is there's this being known as Corypheus, who's an intelligent Darkspawn, who's essentially, he's one of the original wizards that went into the Golden City and tried to kill the gods.
Okay, so he's like
I told you it was legit. Even if they tell you that's what they believe, it's not necessarily true. It's true because that's what the video game says happened.
That's what Corypheus tells you happened. And,
Corypheus tells you.
The reason you needed Hawk is because there's a DLC to Dragon Age 2 where Hawk goes on an adventure with Varric or something like that, and they go into the Deep Roads and they meet Corypheus. And I didn't know anything about that because I never played that DLC. So when they show up and they're like, oh, this is Hawk and he knows about Corypheus, I'm like, when did the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, you're like, who the fuck is Corypheus?
Fuck did that happen?
Yeah. And then at some point in the game, you're at a certain castle for most of this game, and then at some point, Corypheus shows up with his army and fucks up your castle, and you have to go on an expedition across the snow to essentially, it's like the moment in Skyrim where you're like, hey, there's this Akavir temple that's just hanging out. It's like that, except it's an old Inquisition castle that's just been here. So you journey across the snow to this castle, and you're like, this is our place now, haha. It's not that great, to be honest with you. The castle is fine. It's just that, like, where they're like, here's a convenient MacGuffin castle that you can have. It's kind of dumb.
If the voice changer will work now.
It's just like, oh, well, we can't have you without.
Is my voice changed, or is it not changed?
It's not changed. Also, there's also depending on how close you get to your companions, there's a mission you can do where you go with Dorian and you time travel into the future, where everything is kind of fucked up because of the Red Lyrium High Templars. And like Corypheus is sort of taken over the world, and there's all like this Cthulhu shit everywhere. And guess who you find in the future?
Hawk?
No, fucking Leliana. She's the boss of the Inquisition now. And she's old.
Then.
She's old, and you can tell she's old, but she's like, I don't give a fuck, I'll still stab a bitch.
Shaking out, motherfucker. She looks at me around.
She's not even like damaged in the slightest. But she does end up, because of like the way story missions go, she does end up dying. But then when you come back, you're like, we can prevent this future, and then you do.
So then she still inevitably dies because she's mortal, but she dies much more peacefully, is the idea.
Yeah, basically. Let's see. There's a party you go to at some point, on like a noble party, where the elves in the area are very, very depressed. And by the way, if you make the right choices, you go to this party with Vivian and Josephine and maybe Cassandra. But you could essentially
savvy women going to a savvy party.
Trust me, you could also bring Varric, and that's pretty good.
So what you're saying is it's one of these missions that you want to save before and do several times.
Yes, yes, with several different parties. But you absolutely want to bring Vivian because she is, oh boy, she's fantastic in that mission. But essentially, what happens is you have this one person who's
like the noble mage who like talks down to you, but nicely.
Yes. If she's against you, when she's on your side, she will call you on your bullshit. And She's like,
All the
you're
best
not doing
characters
anything,
do.
love. You're too scared to. And you're like, I'm not scared. And she's like, boo. And you're like, ah. She's like, you're scared. uh, but yeah, she's very good to bring on that mission because, noble people. And essentially you end up, you do one of two things. Either you get the elves more oppressed, or you end up putting the mind you, in the shadows, not publicly, you end up putting the lady in charge of the elves in charge of the noble who's oppressing the elves. But this is done in the shadows because they can't know it publicly. And you do it like you're not like in the party, you're like outside of the building of the party when this happens. But essentially, he ends up owing her some shit, so she ends up in charge of him. So he has to do what she says, and it's very fun. Also, a big thing going on is, like we mentioned earlier, there's a big civil war between mages and Templars, and you encounter both several times. And there's a whole thing about the Templar Order is mostly fucked because they're all high on red lyrium, so they keep going fucking crazy.
Yeah, because it's like they've moved from cocaine to super meth.
Yeah. There's also one of the things you can do, since this game is a whole hell of a lot more open world. There's several areas, big large areas to explore. You can kill like 8 dragons in this game. And my favorite class, if you pick the warrior class, your like upgrade is, I think it's Berserker. And because at some point they bring a bunch of class instructors to the castle, and they basically tell you can pick an upgraded class. And if you go to the Berserker class, she's like, what's up, I'm a Berserker. And she's like completely bald and really like grovelly voiced, and she's just like
a raider from Fallout.
She kind of do, yeah. She's like, so you want to be a Berserker? And you're like, yeah, I kind of do. And she's like, you'll do a lot more damage. And I'm like, yeah, I really want that. And she's like, go kill a dragon. And I'm like, okay, anything else? Bring me back its blood. This is starting to sound real familiar. You bring back the dragon's blood, and she's like, drink that shit.
And you're like, haha, how could I have seen you coming?
I'm like, oh boy, I've become a Grey Warden, only it's dragon blood.
Become a Grey Dragon Warden.
I become the Red Warden.
Although, to be fair, after that, you fucking destroy everything real quick. After I became a Berserker and I leveled up Berserker a couple times, I was like, all right, I'm going to go play it cool and try to fight this dragon and be really careful. And I went up and poked it and it died. I was like, oh.
You're just like, ah!
Oh, I see. Berserker is very powerful. Yeah. It also helped that I was playing a very, very large Quinari woman. Anyway.
It may have something to do with your DPS, yes.
Anyway, there's a little bit of a build-up where you get the story that's going on where it's like, oh, you're dealing with these, you're dealing with the Templars, because which you do in Inquisition, rather than like with Hawk, where he's like, I just have to fight everyone in 2. In Inquisition, you go to the mages and you're like, all right, what's going on? Let's talk about this, blah, blah, blah. And you kind of solve their issues. You go to the Templars, okay, let's talk about this, what's going on? And you solve their issues. And what you end up finding out from both sides is, we don't really want to be fighting, but there's these factions of people that are being controlled by red lyrium who are going all buck wild and starting shit. And that's why, essentially, they're still fighting. So then you find out, oh, these guys are being supplied red lyrium by fucking Corypheus, of course. And so there's this whole buildup where it's like, oh, Corypheus is super evil. He literally shows up and blows up your castle. You're like, oh, this is gonna be super tough. And then you go, you go out on this mission to, we got to find out more about Corypheus and try and see if we can find out where he's hiding. And then it's like, hey, here's the final boss battle. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, you found and are now fighting Corypheus.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So I looked up Quinari player characters, and apparently you can be fucking beautiful.
You can be. And by the way, I romanced as that character. I romanced Josephine, who is the tiniest woman ever, and it's so. I'll say this: unlike in the previous 2 games, where you're like, we gonna fuck now. In this one, you can make out with them, and if you do the like sleep together option, it just kind of shows you both walk into the room, and then it goes black, and then it comes up, and they're like back out in the courtyard and whatever, and they're like, "Oh, thank you, sweetheart." There's none of the more intimate stuff, but what I found great was you could pick the options like, I'm gonna make out with Josephine, and then it's like, here's a fucking tall lady and a short lady, and you're having to like bend down. It's real funny. But yeah, so basically what ends up happening is you kill Corypheus, and everything sort of goes back to being stable.
Save the world.
I should also mention that at this point, the Grey Wardens and some of Alistair's personal knights have also joined the Inquisition. Basically, a lot of shit happens because a lot of what you do in Inquisition is you go close portals and you gather allies. That's a lot. That's what most of the game is. You go close a portal, you gather allies. You do this many, many times, and eventually when you fight Corypheus with like 4 people in your party, it's like, why did I do all of this shit? But storyline-wise, it's like, oh, it's because now we've sort of stabilized society. Like we have everybody on agreeable terms. And essentially the Inquisition is like, look, we're here to make sure that you all don't get caught up in your bullshit and almost destroy the world again. Fucking Anders.
So the Inquisition is not a branch of the church then? Like
Nope.
I thought it was.
Nope.
It's like a
They're
group.
their own
Inquisition-
This
separate
whole
organization.
goal is to figure out why this conflict's happening in the first place.
Yes.
They've
have-
been around for a while, but like they're
Now-
separate.
I will say members of the Inquisition, such as Leliana and Cassandra, do believe in what the church preaches, but it is not a branch of the church.
Iron Bull is fucking handsome.
He is.
Also, he looks like Grog.
And then there's there's a bit like right before the end where, because that noble party that I mentioned earlier, that's where you meet Morrigan. She's one of the nobles. Interestingly enough. But there's a whole
No.
part where like you have to go deal with Flemeth. So you take Morgan with you and you go do some bullshit with Flemeth. I don't remember. You have to like get some special item from her or some shit, and they fight and whatever. And she acts dead, but she's not really dead. And then in the DLC, you find out that Solus, who's been in your party this whole time, is actually an evil. He's essentially the Loki of this universe.
He's the great wolf or whatever. He's sent
Yeah.
to devour the rest of the gods.
Yeah, and then he kills Flemeth, and I'm not that upset by that,
Yeah.
honestly.
Dorian Pavis
permakills
basically
her
looks
ass
like
in.
the Joker
Yes,
with no
yes,
makeup.
he permakills her. Yes.
Yeah.
She's
that's,
dead.
That's what I meant when I said he kills Flemeth. Like
Yeah.
she's dead.
Well,
she's
She's dead.
We've killed Flemeth a few times.
No, it's not.
You've
We killed
her
Flemeth.
corporeal
It's
form.
she dead. She hella dead. She ain't
Yeah.
coming back. Kind of dead.
Dead.
And then you do have to fight.
Kills
You
Flemeth.
also have to fight Solus because apparently he's up to some evil shit. But I have actually not played any of that DLC, so I don't really know.
So Dorian looks like the Joker with no makeup.
He kind of do. But yeah, that's essentially what the story of Inquisition is. I liked Inquisition a lot because the graphics were cool, the locations were not fucking dark and depressing all the time like the other 2 games. The characters were really cool. The story was all right until you get to the end. There's a lot of moments where like, oh, you get to meet Hawk, and oh, you get to like meet Alistair, and some cool
You don't
shit
get to
happens
meet
in that game.
The warden from the first game, do you?
No, you don't get to meet him, but you do
I
get
know,
to
like-
contact him directly.
Yeah,
like
he,
you write him,
sends letters
you
and
write him
stuff.
letters and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you did that option way back in Origins, Morgan will also get letters from him, and she'll talk about how he's like a decent father and whatnot, even though he's not incredibly present because he's off doing important things.
Yeah, and if you fucked the witch and saved the world in the first game, Blackwall will also talk about this guy like, oh, he's a legend among the Grey Wardens, or she's a legend among the Grey Wardens. However you
The only
picked.
one ever survive.
The only one to take on an archdemon and not die.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Blackwall. Sorry, he's more like, yeah, he killed an archdemon and he's still alive. He's a pretty cool guy. Did I mention I fought a bear yesterday?
Yeah.
That's kind of how Blackwall is.
Trying to live up to the legend.
Also, when you meet the other Grey Warden, if you have Blackwall in your party, he's like, Blackwall, you son of a bitch, and Blackwall's like, listen, man, I can explain. He's like, you can't explain shit. You ran away. You abandoned the order. You're an abandonee person. And Blackwall's like, listen, man, I really just was going through some shit. And he's like, fuck you, Blackwall. There's a whole storyline there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, Blackwall. Yeah.
Shit on that.
Yeah, Blackwall was a Grey Warden, and then he fucking ran away. Went to go live in the woods. Didn't want nothing to do with the Grey Wardens. So when you find him and you're like, I heard you're a Grey Warden, he's like, who told you that? Yeah, yeah, but I think that's about it. We've been going for like almost 3 hours. So
I feel I did a good job of letting someone else talk most of it this time.
yeah, I mean, the mic issues didn't help. This will probably be shorter than almost 3 hours when I edit it, because there's a lot to edit out this time.
Yeah. Oh, cringe.
You made it political.
I'm going to be listening to this later while I'm playing a game and just going like, oh, God damn it, I got to pause my game again because Zeta had to say some shit. That's what I do. I'll play it on one screen and I'll have like...
And one time I'm going to say Zeta's real name and you're going to be like, God damn it, Dave.
Yeah, I'll send you a text. Fucking Dave, what the fuck, man? Anyway, this has been the tutorial on Dragon Age. If you learned something, what the fuck did you learn? Let us know in the comments. BioWare! I imagine we'll do a Mass Effect episode later, and Dave will probably be the one in charge, because I don't know nothing about...
Next week is Ringo's week, and he's not here to tell us what he's going to do for next week.
I think from now on, what we should do is we should just have a backup topic at ready in case Ringo doesn't show up, because he has a habit of not.
I also missed when we decided now what we're going to talk about next week.
I was going to say we should just do that.
So if we assume that Dave's leading the episode next week and not Ringo, what are we talking about?
Not
the Sonic games, because I need to follow up on my Sonic.
That's right. You have a part 2 to do. Yeah.
I have a part 2.
Can we do that, like,
and I gotta figure out in editing how to do the whole cut into the video a challenger approaches thing, because when we talked about the Sonic comics, that kind of happened. We're in the middle of the episode talking about the Sonic comics, and all of a sudden, there's Zeta. He just kind of shows up in the middle of our episode.
Challenger approaches.
We're talking about man, the Sonic comics were shit.
There's a new challenger.
Yeah. Here comes a new challenger.
And then Zeta cuts in and he's just like, what up? I'm in Mexico, bitches.
Yeah. Aloha from the beach.
Anyway, this has been the tutorial on Dragon Age. As I said before, if you learned anything, please let us know in the comments down below. Please like this episode and share it with your friends and stuff. We'll see you next time. Apparently, we're going to be talking about some more Sonic shit, so you can look forward to that.
Yeah, unless Ringo gets his shit together.
Yeah, unless Ringo gets his shit together. Watch, he's going to send a message to group chat now and go, I was awake the whole time, guys. I swear.
I don't even see him online right now.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and I don't know if I even want to bother like ever knocking on his door anymore because he never responds.
Throw a tennis ball behind you at the wall, and if he responds, he responds. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
Anyway, everybody say goodbye now.
Bye.